Hey, beautiful people. Hope that you're having a good day. Dr. Manhattan, whew. How are you? I'm going to just talk about JD Vance and other stuff. I don't know how much of these videos I'm going to get through, but there's a lot that's going on. I was looking at these ICE protests, and it's scary out there. I have to mute my microphone so I can get through these video clips with you guys, and then we'll talk about it later, okay? How do I do this? JD Vance. I haven't seen this one yet, so I'm going to watch it with you.
Over the issue of fraud. Now, of course, that person's efforts will start and focus primarily in Minnesota, but it is going to be a nationwide effort because unfortunately, the American people have been defrauded in a very nationwide way. I want to thank a couple of people for their cooperation, in particular Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, first of all, for getting a lot of resources to Minneapolis to start to investigate and prosecute this fraud, really at an industrial scale. We've never seen fraud like this in the history of our country. Pam has been doing a great job to get the resources there to uncover it, but importantly, creating a job like this often takes months, sometimes even longer. When we realized that we needed this Associate Attorney General position, Pam got this person up and running in about a week. We're going to make the nomination hopefully in the next few days. We'll obviously let you guys know who that is when we do it. I've talked to Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who has promised me swift confirmation for this official, but this is the person who is going to make sure that we stop defrauding the American people. Here's one final thing I'll say about this. I've heard a lot of people say that we need a special counsel to investigate fraud in the United States of America. I actually agree, and that's what this position does. It has all the benefits, all the resources, all the authority of a special counsel, but with two crucial differences. Number one, it will be run out of the White House under the supervision of me and the President of the United States. And number two, it's actually constitutionally legitimate. As you guys may know, the special counsel statute has some major constitutional questions. When we get the bad guys, we want to make sure we get them permanently and they don't have some legal technicality they can get out of, which is why we set it up as an Associate Attorney General. I'll take some questions, but I want to make just one final observation here. When I was actually walking out here, somebody sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, that's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile. What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers. And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before. And everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Every single one of you. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to read a quote from Tim Walz earlier today. He said, when things looked bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held the line for the nation on July 3rd, 1863. And I think we may be in that moment now. Can you comment on his rhetoric and Mayor Jacob Fry and whether they want to see unrest in Minneapolis?
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new assistant attorney general position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
On a related question here, I mean, Democrats have accused ICE of murder. They've said they're targeting Americans. They've told ICE to get the F out of Minnesota. This is going to stoke the fire against ICE agents. And you're talking about ICE agents right now and being concerned about them. What, if anything, is the administration going to do to make sure these folks are protected during these protests? But also, should DHS sort of revisit their procedures here? I mean, nobody wants to see an American killed. Are there changes that need to be made to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
Look, first of all, of course, nobody wants an American citizen to be killed. This is absolutely a tragedy. But it's a tragedy of the making of the far left. They have radicalized a very small segment of the population, taught them that ICE agents are engaging in wide-scale violation of people's rights. What our ICE officers are doing is deporting the millions of criminal aliens that were let in during the Biden administration. So number one, we have to say, as a matter of leadership, and I would appreciate if the Democrats would join me on this, let's be honest about the fact that we have way too many illegal aliens in this country. Our ICE officers should be supported in doing their job. You're trying to actually marshal the far left lunatic fringe to engage in doxing, to try to make it impossible for them to enforce the law, and in some cases actually to engage in acts of domestic terrorism against our law enforcement officers. When you talk about different plans, different protocols, different policies, I forget exactly how you asked the question. Here's the simple fact. What we're going to do is make it easier for the American people's administration to enforce the American people's law. And that means that Democrats have to stop rallying the mob against legitimate law enforcement operations. And that means that we are going to get tougher, and that's what this AAG position is about. We're going to get tougher at the people who are defrauding the United States by inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's one of the things that we're going to do. We've already started that work at the Department of Justice, but we're going to keep on doing it, and this new AAG position is going to kick that into high gear.
Vice President Vance, you just suggested that this woman who was killed, Renee Good, is part of a broader left-wing network. Who do you think is behind this broader left-wing network?
Well, it's one of the things we're going to have to figure out. But here's the way that I put it. When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see, just with this most recent terrible incident in Minneapolis, you see friends of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, some of the media are participating in it, that is trying to incite violence against our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous, it's preposterous, and part of our investigatory work is getting to the bottom of it. Who's funding it? Who's supporting it? Who's cheerleading it? And of course, if there's illegal activity related to that, we're going to get to the bottom of that and prosecute it where we can.
Vice President, thank you for taking questions today. Is there a risk with you describing her as a deranged leftist, talking about very specific facts of these events, when an investigation is just beginning? Are you preempting a thorough investigation by drawing such conclusions? And have you received any information beyond the videos we've seen publicly about this individual, her specific acts, that has informed your point of view?
Well, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to investigate this. The Department of Homeland Security is already investigating this. But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left, who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers. I think what is clearly happening here, and it's going to keep on happening unless the Democrats wake up and say, you know what, you don't have to agree with our immigration policies. You don't have to agree with what the president or the vice president believe about immigration enforcement. But why don't you take this to the ballot box? Why don't you vote? Why don't you organize? Instead, what some of them are doing is encouraging people to get violent with our law enforcement officials. It's disgraceful, and it's got to stop.
Just to follow up on that question, and again, thank you for taking questions, Mr. Vice President. There's clearly a lot of emotion in Minnesota, across the country, over this incident. You're calling Renee Good a deranged leftist. There's been heated rhetoric that we've also heard from officials. What responsibility do you and the president have to diffuse some of the tension that we are seeing play out in Minnesota, bring down the temperature as this investigation is unfolding?
What we have a responsibility to do is to protect the people who are enforcing the law and protect the country writ large. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you deserve to have the people's laws enforced in the United States of America. Now, again, I'm not happy that this woman lost her life. I'm not happy that this woman was there at a protest violating the law by interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's the best way to take down the temperature. And we're not going to give in to terrorism on this. And that's exactly what's happening. People trying to antagonize, to commit acts of violence. They throw bricks at them. Sometimes they shoot at them. Sometimes they dox them. Sometimes they go to their place of residence and harass their families. This is classic terrorism. And we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. The actual reward that they just got is a new assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate this stuff even more aggressively than before.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my question. So the head of Minnesota's investigations agency says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigations agency's access to the investigation. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access and evidence to work on this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I'd like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue that they're encouraging people. Minneapolis officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop. Go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you. You said earlier that there's a left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and make it impossible for ICE officers to do their job. You told my colleague just now that there's an investigation going on into that network.
Yep.
So if everything that you say is true, how does being part of that network justify being shot?
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life. And that is the tragedy. Now, there may be other violations of the law and other penalties that are associated with those violations of the law. For example, if you are funding violence against our law enforcement officers, I'm not a prosecutor. My guess is that's not the sort of thing that earns capital punishment, but it should sure as hell earn you a few years in prison if you're funding the effort to try to assault our law enforcement officers. What is, I'm sorry, guys, what's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked me a question that presumed that the reason why this woman died is because she was engaged in legitimate protest. She tried to run somebody over with her car, and the guy defended himself when that happened. Next question.
The investigation is still ongoing.
I said next question.
Mr. Vice President, I mean, you presumably watched the video yourself. There's not the slightest doubt in your mind, having viewed it, that the victim, you still believe that she deliberately tried to ram him despite seeing this video?
Look, I don't know what is in a person's heart or in a person's head, and obviously we're not going to get the chance to ask this woman what was going on. What I am certain of is that she violated the law. What I'm certain of is that that officer had every reason to think that he was under very serious threat for injury or in fact, his life. What I'm certain of is that she accelerated in a way where she ran into the guy. I don't know what was in her heart and what was in her head, but I know that she violated the law, and I know that officer was acting in self-defense. It raises an interesting point, though. Look, if people want to say that we should have a legitimate debate about, what was she really doing, right? Was she panicking when she drove into this officer, or was she actually trying to ram him? That's a reasonable conversation. What's not reasonable is for so many of you to plaster all over the media that this was an innocent woman and that the ICE agent committed murder, which is what many of you have said explicitly and some of you have said implicitly. That's what I have an objection to. The idea that this was not justified is absurd, and I think everybody knows it in their heart. Yeah.
Mr. Vice President, following
In the green jacket.
Taking down the temperature, it seems like political violence is ratcheting up and riots could be around the corner. What steps does the administration have planned to try to unite America? Average people on both political sides are so tired of fighting with each other, and I think all the journalists in this room could agree with me that we don't want to be part of the problem. Do you have any words to unite America?
I know you don't want to be a part of the problem, and I think that's true of a lot of you. I'm not sure it's true for everybody, because the reporting over this has been one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen in media. I've never seen a case so misrepresented and misreported when you have a guy who is defending himself and is now being treated as some sort of federal assassin by so many of the people in this room. First of all, let me say about crime. You mentioned violence. One of the things we're proudest about is that you saw violent crime over the last year drop by 20%. Why is that drop by 20%? Is it because we're attacking our law enforcement officers, or is it because we in the administration are empowering our law enforcement officers to enforce the law? I think that's one of the ways you take down the temperature, is you make people feel more secure and safe in their person and property. That's why we care so much about protecting our law enforcement, because it accrues to the benefit of the entire national community. I think that we can absolutely talk about the ways in which we can lower the temperature by discussing differences in a reasonable and rational way. Again, I'm happy to talk with any congressional Democrat or any of you about our immigration policy, about why I think it's necessary, about why I think it's in the best interest of the country, about why the President of the United States was elected to actually enforce the border for the first time in at least 4 years. So here's the problem. That's not the debate so many people are having. They are actively covering for people who are committing acts of violence against federal law enforcement. It is preposterous. The way to take down the temperature is to stop it. Have your debates about policy. Attack me. Attack the President of the United States. Don't attack our law enforcement officers. They are trying to do the job the American people demanded that they do. They are not policy actors. They are enforcing the law. They should be treated with a modicum of dignity and respect. And the fact that they're not is why incidents like yesterday happened. The one final point I'll make about this is, look, there's a part of me that feels very, very sad for this woman, not just because she lost her life, but because I think she is a victim of left-wing ideology. What young mother shows up and decides they're going to throw their car in front of ICE officers who are enforcing legitimate law? You've got to be a little brainwashed to get to that point to where you're willing not just to protest, that's fine, not peacefully protest, but throw your vehicle in front of legitimate law enforcement officers and drive your car into them. To get to that point, you have to be, I think, radicalized in a very, very sad way. I certainly wish that she hadn't got there. I know there's an ICE officer right now who very much wishes he was not put in the position where he had to fire a gun to defend his own life. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. What's your message, following up on that, what's your message to the leaders in Minnesota the governor of Minnesota, the mayor of Minneapolis, to calm down the situation on the ground, on the streets? What's your message also to those protesters who saw that video in a completely different way than you saw that video?
Well, first of all, I think if you watch every angle of that video, there is one angle where if you squint, you can maybe tell yourself that it's not clear what happened. But when you look at all angles of that video, it is very clear that her vehicle went right for the guy. She actually collided with him. And then that's, of course, when he fired his shots. That's obvious, okay? So what I'd say to the protesters is, by all means, protest peacefully, but make this about ideas. Make this about disagreement with our policy. Don't use your protest as a justification or an encouragement for people to go and incite violence and participate in violence against our law enforcement officials. To the people on the ground in Minneapolis, meaning the local officials in Minneapolis from Tim Walz on down, I'd say, look, why can't you just disagree with a given piece of immigration policy without turning law enforcement into the enemy? And think about, for example, a criminal law where a police officer goes and arrests somebody because they violated a criminal law. If you're mad about that, go and protest the politician who passed that law. Don't attack the police officer who's just doing their job. We had a wide open border under Joe Biden. I happen to think it's a good thing the President of the United States has closed it down. If you think that's a bad idea, criticize this administration for a policy decision. Don't attack our people for enforcing the law, because I guarantee you go to ICE, there are black people and white people. There are Democrats and Republicans. They are patriotic Americans who are trying to enforce the law. Attack me, lay off of our ICE agents. Yeah, in the blue, all the way, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vice President. You called on Tim Walz to resign. Can you lay out the case as to why he should step down?
Well, look, I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear either that he knew about the fraud in Minneapolis, he knew about the welfare fraud, or at the very least, he looked the other way. I mean, this is not like Lex Luthor, right? This is not movie villain fraud. This is the lowest IQ possible fraud. This is, we're going to take the absence of kids and set up a daycare center where there are no children, and we're going to call our early childhood education center the Quality Leering Center. By the way, if you can't spell learning, maybe you shouldn't be in early childhood education. But people got rich off of this. We know that there were schools who either had no enrollment or at least they overstated their enrollment. Tim Walz, either it was unbelievable incompetence or he was in on the fraud. That's one of the things we're going to get to the bottom of. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Can you explain the difference between this Associate Attorney General and a special counsel? And do you envision this being a permanent position or having more of a limited scope?
Well, it's going to be permanent until we get to the bottom of what's going on. So I think it's going to last for at least the remainder of the administration. What's different about it from a special counsel is, if you remember, the Jack Smith case where the special counsel was found unconstitutional, one of the big issues there is that person was not an appointed person, completely aside from all the other issues that the person was a lunatic and that the case had no merit. There was a fundamental constitutional issue, which is that he had not been appointed by the president and he had not been confirmed by the United States Senate. An assistant attorney general, what that's going to allow us to do is appoint this person, have them confirmed by the Senate. That's one difference. The more substantive difference is that this person is going to be part of a very broad interagency White House that's being led from the President of the United States on down. And that's going to give them the resources, the access to material and information to make this person more effective. I think a lot of people have asked, how are you really going to get to the heart of the fraud? We've been asking ourselves that question for the past couple of months, and we think this is the critical piece at the Department of Justice to really ramp this fraud investigation into high gear. In the red tie, yeah.
Vice President Vance, I wanted to ask, what's your message to far leftist agitators who feel emboldened to obstruct ICE activity in Minnesota and around the country?
Well, I think they shouldn't feel emboldened because now they have an assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate their fraud and their violence more aggressively than it has ever been investigated in the United States of America. We are doing so much to try to find the financing networks and the domestic terrorism networks that legitimate this violence, that fund this violence, and that, of course, engage in the violence. These people should not feel emboldened because they have, for the first time, maybe in American history, an administration that is not going to tolerate political violence of any kind from anywhere. Yeah.
We made clear today that the entire weight of the federal government is behind these ICE agents and this ICE agent in particular. There is still a federal investigation happening on the ground. Does that mean that they are not looking into this ICE agent at all? They are just focused on the woman who was in the car? What is the investigation if the federal government has already determined that its weight is behind this ICE investigation?
So what do you mean? When you say investigation, do you mean investigation of the shooting yesterday or of the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis?
Yesterday.
Okay, look, DHS, as I understand it, has an investigation already ongoing. I know that other are looking at going door to door to actually knock on some of these fraudulent care centers, these fraudulent social services organizations to get to the bottom of what's going on there. So the investigation in some ways has already been ramping up into the anti-fraud element for at least a few weeks. What we're trying to do is supercharge it and make sure there's a designated person within the Department of Justice who completely controls that particular focus.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Vice President, on the agent, is he still on duty or has he been placed on leave, on administrative leave? And what really was the target of the operation on Wednesday? ICE operation on Wednesday?
Well, first of all, it was a legitimate law enforcement operation. We were going door to door to try to find criminal illegal aliens and deport them from the United States of America, because if you come to our country illegally in violation of our immigration laws, then we have the mandate, and in fact, we have the legal duty to enforce those immigration laws. Whether he's been placed on administrative leave, I don't know the answer to that question. I'd refer it to the Department of Homeland Security, and they can follow up. I will say, look, I would appreciate everybody saying a prayer for that agent. Look, in the past 6 months, he has been hit twice by a motor vehicle. One time, the first time, it led to over 30 stitches and very serious injuries to his legs. This is a guy who's actually done a very, very important job for the United States of America. He's been assaulted, he's been attacked, he's been injured because of it. He deserves a debt of gratitude. And I think the media prejudging and talking about this guy as if he's a murderer is one of the most disgraceful things I've ever seen from the American media. Yeah.
Vice President, what is your specific role in the future of Venezuela? And I'm wondering, could you confirm reports that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was kept out of the planning for the operations because of her past concerns about military involvement in Venezuela?
So I've heard a couple of things. One, that I was kept out of the planning for the Venezuela operation. That's false. And another, that Tulsi was kept out of the planning for Venezuela operations. That's completely false. Look, we're all part of the same team. And one of the things that is really amazing about that operation is that we kept it very tight to the senior cabinet level officials and related officials in our government. And we kept this operation secret for a very long time. I'm very proud of that. I think it suggests that the team works very well together. Well, looking ahead, what is my role? Look, my role is going to be whatever the president asks me to do. Well, every single, or I should say every other day, I'm chairing the meeting that we do on this among White House principals to talk about next steps to try to ensure that Venezuela is stable. And as the president has directed us to do, to ensure that the new Venezuelan government actually listens to the United States and does what the United States needs it to do under our country's best interest. So I'm going to be as involved as the president wants me to be. So far, that's been very involved. And I'll keep on doing that so long as the president asks me to do it. The purple.
Yes.
Even beyond the war powers
Sorry,
resolution.
we'll go purple and then we'll go pink or whatever that is in front.
Royal purple, and then beige. All right.
Okay.
Are there any indications, you talked about the network, are there any indications that the lady who was shot, I know there are different reports from there, her wife said they were new to the area. Are there any indications she may have been a paid agitator, and maybe that there are others that were brought to the area, considering everything that's going on in Minneapolis?
I wouldn't say that she was paid. I don't have the evidence to say that one way or the other. What I do know is that she was violating the law. And if you just look at the eyewitness accounts, they were saying she was there to prevent the enforcement of the law. She was trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. That much is obviously clear. The rest of it, of course, is part of the reason why we investigate this stuff. Yeah.
Mr. Vice President, even beyond the war powers resolution today, Congress has bucked President Trump on issues like tariffs. Are you concerned that President Trump is losing his grip on Republicans in the Congress, and what are you going to do about it?
No, I'm not concerned at all. First of all, we talked to some of the senators who were going to vote the wrong way, in my view, on this resolution today. Much of their argument was based more on a legal technicality than any disagreement in policy. If you look at the people who actually voted, every single one of them have supported the administration's plan. Second of all, as the president, I believe himself, has already said, Democrat or Republican, believes the War Powers Act is fundamentally a fake and unconstitutional law, it's not going to change anything about how we conduct foreign policy over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months. And that'll continue to be how we approach things. Go ahead.
President. So we are seeing, regarding Iran, we are seeing the protests in Iran these days. The cities are begging for help from the U.S. and Israel, naming streets in the city after President Trump. It seems there is an opportunity here that may not come again. Will the United States stand by the citizens of Iran? And if Israel decides to strike again the nuclear sites in Iran, is the U.S. expected to take part?
Well, look, we certainly stand by anybody who's engaged in peaceful protests, anybody who's trying to exert their rights for free association and to have their voices heard. Obviously, the Iranian regime has a lot of problems. And as the President of the United States has said, the smartest thing for them to have done, it was true 2 months ago, it's true today, is for them to actually have a real negotiation with the United States about what we need to see when it comes to their nuclear program. I'll let the president speak to what we're going to do in the future, but we certainly stand with anybody across the world, including the Iranian people who are advocating for their rights. I'll take just a couple more questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Concerning Venezuela, how would you assure the Caribbean region that they will remain a zone of peace? Because some member states in the region are concerned.
Well, look, the president had a very productive phone call with the president of Colombia yesterday, and we continue to talk at all levels of government with a number of our friends in the Caribbean region. I actually think this is really good for peace in the Caribbean, because when you take away a major source of illegal cartel revenue, which is the cocaine trade, the fentanyl trade, other sources of illicit revenue, you actually remove the power of one of the main destabilizing forces in Latin America and in the Caribbean. I really do think, look, we say it all the time, this is the president of peace. One of the ways that you establish peace in your own hemisphere is to make it clear that the United States is going to be respected, that the United States is willing to take power away from criminal cartel organizations and give it to legitimate governments. That's how we see the future of the Western Hemisphere, and we think it's going to be much more peaceful than it was certainly under Joe Biden. I'll take one more question. Go ahead.
Mr. Vice President, thank you. On Greenland, do you have a message for European leaders? Many in Europe reject the idea that the island could be for sale.
Well, first of all, Secretary Rubio, I believe, is meeting with the leaders of Denmark and Greenland next week. I want to say it is, but maybe it's the week after that. We'll continue to deliver some of these messages in private, some of them in public. But I guess my advice to European leaders and anybody else would be to take the president of the United States seriously. What has he said about Greenland? Set to the side the crazy overreactions that I've seen from the press and from certain people in Europe. What has the president said? Number one, Greenland is really important, not just to America's missile defense, but to the world's missile defense. Number two, we know that there are hostile adversaries that have shown a lot of interest in that particular territory, that particular slice of the world. So what we're asking our European friends to do is to take the security of that landmass more seriously, because if they're not, the United States is going to have to do something about it. What that is, I'll leave that to the president as we continue to engage in diplomacy with our European friends and everybody on this particular topic. And again, thank you all for listening. Thanks for taking questions. And I just ask you, look, this is politics, and often Republicans and get in arguments with the press about things. I understand that. I think it's really irresponsible for you guys to go out there and imply or tell the American people that a guy who defended himself from being rammed by an automobile is guilty of murder. Be a little bit more careful. We're going to talk about toning down the temperature, which I know the president wants to do, and I certainly want to do. One of the ways we tone down the temperature is to have a media that tells the truth. I encourage you all to do that. God bless you.
Primetime went to the nation's capital today, where we got the chance to interview Vice President J.D. Vance. We asked him about the seizure and what's next in Venezuela. Also, are we going into Greenland? J.D. answers. And he also has something to say about his good friend Tim Walz and the Somalis. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Vice President.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
taking out a dictator in Venezuela. How does that help the average American?
Well, a few things, Jesse. First of all, what it means is we're going to be able to control the incredible natural resources of Venezuela, which is good for America in a few ways. Number one, it allows us to put leverage on our enemies. Number two, it makes sure that if Americans need high quality, low cost power, we're always going to have access to it. And then the third thing is it does demonstrate American military excellence, which makes people afraid to cross us in the future. Some of the best ways that you maintain the peace is to make it clear that you carry a very strong sword if you ever need to use it. So I think it's good for us in a lot of different ways. We also have to remember, Jesse, this is in our neighborhood. This is not Iraq. This is not 7,000 miles away. This is in our neighborhood. If we cannot follow the basic principle, which has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for 200 years, that we control our neighborhood, a lot of bad people are going to take advantage of it. What the President of the United States said is, in our neighborhood, the United States calls the shots. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it is again under the president's leadership.
We just seized a Russian oil tanker. Russian submarines were trying to slip it past the Navy. This thing's heating up.
You know, I think people overstate that. First of all, it was a fake Russian oil tanker. They basically tried to pretend to be a Russian oil tanker in an effort to avoid the sanctions regime. But people always ask, how do you control Venezuela? And we're actually seeing it play out in real time. The way that we control Venezuela is we control the purse strings, we control the energy resources, and we tell the regime, you're allowed to sell the oil so long as you serve America's national interest. You're not allowed to sell it if you can't serve America's national interest. And that's how we exert incredible pressure on that country without wasting a single American life, without endangering a single American citizen. That is called critical, high-quality diplomacy. We've done it time and again, but we just did it in Venezuela.
The Democrats say Trump is greedy. He's all about oil and empire.
He's greedy to serve the American interest, and that's what you want in an American president. You cannot have people taking advantage of the United States in our own hemisphere. The President of the United States said he's done with that. I think it's interesting. The Democrats call the president greedy, but in what sense has any of this enriched him or enriched the administration? It's enriched the American people, which is what you want out of an American president. Somebody who's thinking to themselves, how do I serve the American people's best interest? How do I go and accomplish good things for the American people? That's a good thing to have in an American president. You want somebody who's greedy for the American people. The Democrats are greedy for themselves.
Well, Jasmine Crockett said you guys kidnapped Maduro.
We engaged in a law enforcement action. We had a legitimate indictment for Maduro for narco-terrorism, for weapons smuggling and weapons trafficking. And we went in with the best military in the world. We got our guy. He's going to stand trial. By the way, he's given the full due process rights that are entitled to anybody who's in the United States. I think he's going to go away. He's going to be found guilty. That's not a kidnapping. That's a law enforcement operation. And Jasmine Crockett, of all people, she has the least amount of room to talk on this stuff. She doesn't know what she's talking about. As the president said, you couldn't have a worse spokesperson, a person with less knowledge about world affairs. It's telling that she's the person speaking for the Democrats on this issue.
You guys have designated the cartels as terrorist organizations.
Because they are, yeah.
How do you win the war on drugs if Americans love cocaine?
That's the one big pushback I've gotten is when I criticize the Venezuelans for trafficking cocaine. You had a lot of people say, we don't like fentanyl, but some people do like cocaine. Unfortunately, cocaine is a very bad drug. And importantly, Jesse, it is a major profit center for the Venezuelan cartels. So if they sell a little bit of fentanyl, but a lot of cocaine, and they use that cocaine to spread and further their cartel operations, that means a lot more poison is going to be coming into the United States. So for all the people that love cocaine, I am sorry, the President of the United States does not love cocaine. We encourage you to go to rehab, and we're going to keep on pursuing America's interest.
Greenland, how far are you guys willing to go?
Well, the president is going to make the ultimate determination here, but there's been a lot of bellyaching from Europe, and Europe has failed to contend with the fundamental argument the president and the entire administration has made. Greenland is critical, not just to our national security, but to the world's national security. People don't realize this. The entire missile defense infrastructure is partially dependent on Greenland. If, God forbid, the Russians or the Chinese, not saying they're going to, but if, God forbid, in the future, somebody launched a nuclear missile into our continent, they launched a nuclear missile at Europe, Greenland is a critical part of that missile defense. So you ask yourself, have the Europeans, have the Danes done a proper job of securing Greenland and making sure it can continue to serve as an anchor for world security and missile defense? And the answer is obviously they haven't. They've underinvested in their security. They haven't done a good job of securing that area, that landmass. And what I hear them say is they'll always make an argument about the past. They'll say, well, we fought together in World War II, or we fought together in the war on terrorism. And we're grateful for that. We love having these allies. But just because you did something smart 25 years ago doesn't mean you can't do something dumb now. And the President of the United States is saying very clearly, you are not doing a good job with respect to Greenland. We're going to make sure we defend America's interests. And I think the president's willing to go as far as he has to make sure he does that.
They're saying it's too cold for American soldiers to handle. You've been there.
Who is saying that? Jasmine Crockett?
The Danes. Probably Crockett too.
I think Americans have done very well in some very cold places. I will say I wouldn't want to serve there, but luckily the vice president's residence is here in Washington, D.C.
Okay. The Democrats have a little bit of a Somali problem. They've let it
America
go.
has a bit of a Somali problem.
Especially the Democrats in Minnesota. Why'd they just let it happen right under their nose?
Well, a couple of things, Jesse. First of all, if you look at the amount of fraud in the welfare system, according to the statistics I've seen, 85% of Somalians who are in the United States, legal and illegal, are collecting some form of welfare benefit. So that's not to disparage the other 15%, but when you're at 85% of a population that is collecting welfare, that suggests that we have really done something wrong with regards to vetting. And that's the fundamental issue. Even if there's no fraud, 85% collecting welfare is way too many damn people collecting welfare, getting rich off the American taxpayer while a lot of Americans struggle. That's unacceptable. What's going on in Minneapolis, I think, is actually representative of a broader fraud scheme that we're going to see all over the country. We're going to see it in California. We're going to see it in other places too, where people get rich from the American taxpayer. The Somalian fraud, for example, daycare fraud. You've got Americans, we've got programs set up to make it easier for Americans to get their kids in daycare so they can have proper childcare. You take that money and you siphon it off to Somalian fraudsters. That's a double theft. Number one, that means a lot of American families can't afford their childcare. Number two, that means a lot of American taxpayers are being fleeced. It's totally unacceptable. I believe, Jesse, we're going to have some very big announcements on this stuff in the next couple of days. I don't want to get ahead of the president on anything, but we believe that there is a nationwide fraud ring that's rooted in rooted in illegal aliens and others taking advantage of the American welfare system. We're going to get to the root of it, and anybody who's involved is going to get prosecuted.
Well, if there's a massive fraud ring, there's a cover-up going on. In Minnesota, they were just caught forging documents, trying to cover their tracks. Should Tim Walz resign?
Well, I think Tim Walz should resign, but look, I've beaten up on Tim Walz enough. I don't want to do it anymore in your program. I almost feel bad for the guy, except for the fact that he should have seen this. And whether there was something criminal, whether he was aware of the fraud, which would be criminal, or whether he simply looked the other way, it's a massive, massive failure of government. Look, you have to ask yourself, if you're in Minneapolis and you have a person who came to the United States impoverished 2 months ago, and all of a sudden they're driving a Mercedes or a Lamborghini, it is your job as a public official to ask, how did that person get so rich so quickly when they're also collecting a welfare check? The fact that that's failed so often in Minnesota, but frankly, it failed in California and other states as well, means that we have political I would say political corruption, welfare corruption at a very massive scale. The Trump administration, by the way, we've already sent hundreds and hundreds of additional people, of resources that are starting to investigate this stuff, get to the bottom of it. Stephen Miller sent people who are literally going door to door at some of these fraudulent daycare centers and trying to understand just how deep the rabbit hole goes. But this is going to be a long-term effort from the Trump administration to root out corruption and actually look after Americans for a change and their hard-earned money.
You're sending investigators to California.
We are sending investigators to a lot of places to try to get to the root of this welfare fraud. I think what it revealed, Jesse, is something I frankly wasn't aware of until a few weeks ago, which is it's not just that people are getting welfare who shouldn't get welfare. That is true, right? These programs exist to take care of Americans who are down on their luck, not to enrich fraudsters. But it's bigger than that. It's that people take this money and create whole businesses around siphoning money from the American taxpayer. So again, you've got poor people who can't get what they need. You've also got American taxpayers who are getting fleeced. It is the ultimate lose-lose proposition. And I think Minneapolis just really revealed how ridiculous it was. I mean, Jesse, this is the most low IQ fraud scheme imaginable. Like, it's almost shocking that you would have people running a daycare with the quality Leering Center. If you're running a daycare and you can't spell the word learning, or you can't spell the word kids, that suggests that maybe you should not be in early childhood education. And the fact that it was so obvious and so blatant does suggest a level of political corruption. We're going to get to the bottom of it.
Well, Tim Walz should be worried because you can't misspell learning and take someone's money.
He should be worried for many reasons.
He called you weird. Remember that?
I know. Because I don't like Somali fraudsters. I guess that makes me weird. Guilty as charged.
Gavin Newsom, he says, you guys want to come look at California? Bring it on.
Yeah, well, we will. We appreciate that invitation, Gavin, and we are going to accept that invitation because, look, California, more than almost any other state, has been so glaring and obvious about the fact that they're giving welfare benefits to illegal aliens. Like, that's not, you go to the California Medicaid website and they will advertise that they are spending American tax dollars to give Medicaid to illegal aliens. You think there's not fraud there? You think there aren't people who are creating fraudulent doctor's offices, fraudulent payment schemes? There are. They're getting rich off of the generosity of the American taxpayer. The political corruption that enables it has got to stop, and that's what we're focused on.
Your administration had a big year, got a lot done. Now you're in your second year. What would be the one thing economically you want to achieve now?
Yeah, so the big thing we did achieve is we cut the trade deficit by over 60% in the president's first year in office. That's amazing. What that means is more jobs coming to the United States, more investment coming to the United States of America. I want to build on that. You know, we talk about this $18 trillion of new investment that's coming into the United States. I want to build as many factories as possible, give as many Americans high-paying jobs as possible, and make as much of our own stuff. And I think while we do that, we've got to tackle the housing issue for a lot of young Americans. They feel like they're priced out of the housing market. The president's about to make some really big announcements on that stuff in the next couple of weeks. And what we're going to do is we want to preserve the wealth that a lot of people have accrued in their homes while also making it possible for young people to afford their first home, make it affordable for young families to raise young families. And I think we can do that. I think that we've actually got some good policies that are going to thread that needle very well, be very good for young Americans and young American families. That's what I'm most focused on economically over the next year, because I think if you really give people a sense of ownership in this country, a sense that they can build something, build a nest egg, build a family, that is the trick to reinvigorating the American dream. That's what the president's most focused on, and we're going to do it.
Are young Americans getting married? Are they settling down, having babies?
Not like they used to, and that's a big problem, Jesse. I mean, look, think about it. What really makes life worthwhile? It's not your job. It's not what school you went to. It's falling in love. It's building a family. It's having kids. Those are the things that I think really bring meaning to most people's lives, certainly to mine. I imagine yours too, unless you're a crazy person, but I think you're a Republican. But that is happening less. And part of the reason it's happening less is what happened to housing under Joe Biden. It literally doubled in 4 years. Young Americans are telling us they can't afford to buy a home. They can't afford to start a family. They can't afford daycare because Somali fraudsters are ripping off the money that we're trying to put into the system to help people afford childcare. We've got to do a better job of giving young Americans a shot at the American dream. I think that we've made so much progress over the past year, but look, we're digging out of a massive hole that Joe Biden left us. There's so much more work to do, and we're excited to get it done.
And if you get the immigrants out of the country that came here illegally, that's going to bring prices down. Are we
Exactly.
getting these illegals out fast enough?
We always want to get them out faster. A lot of the ICE agents that we have hired in the past 6 months, they're not even done with training. So all of the big investments that we've made in border security, what we've done is actually gotten 2.5 million illegal aliens out without any of the really big marquee things that we've been working on. That was just simple willpower and the President of the United States coming in and saying, this is done. I think we're going to see those deportation numbers ramp up as we get more and more people online, working for ICE, going door to door and making sure that if you're an illegal alien, you've got to get out of this country. And if you want to come back, apply through the proper channels.
If things don't work out for me at Fox, could I work for ICE? You never know.
You could work for ICE, but look, you're a very compelling communications guy. You can be a speechwriter, assistant speechwriter in the vice president's office if you ever find yourself unemployed.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Hey, Fox News fans, do you love watching Fox News?
I did have the protest for you guys, and then I lost it. I was gonna show you guys what's happening over there, but there's just a lot. JD Vance said a lot, you guys. I don't know how you feel about the protests, but this is what's happening in our country. Why are we fighting so hard for people that don't belong here? They didn't come here legally. I know that you guys had a lot to. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I want to hear Misunderstood's take. Weenie Beanie, I got you. I really wanted to show you guys the footage, but I can't find it now. Now I held my opinion on this lady losing her life, but then I watched a lot of videos. I'm not really gonna give commentary on it, but listen, ICE job is difficult. I really think we need to see the body cam. Rest in peace to the lady that lost her life. I do think that the state has a big responsibility in assisting ICE to get the illegal immigrants out of here and to do what's best for our country. That's what I think. There's a lot of fraud, and this is all happening in Minnesota. There's a lot of fraud that's going on. And these protests, in my opinion, saying to get out, and what the mayor is saying in regards to ICE, doesn't make things any better. These protests don't look American to me. It looks very anti-American. It looks like a bunch of people who do not like this country. And I'm not looking at the chat because y'all turned me up yesterday. Looks like it looks like a bunch of people that don't want to be here, that feel that they can do whatever they want to do. It's unlawful, and it doesn't seem safe. And with everything that's going on with Tim Walz, I really feel that they need to focus on that and let ICE do their job. When I looked at that video of the lady, the guy was standing to the side, a vehicle is a weapon, and I mean, did y'all see that ICE agent? Did you watch the video? The ICE agent that was standing on the side was slipping on the ice. There's just a lot. There's a lot that's happening there, and apparently this lady protests a lot. Why? Maybe she fell into left-wing ideologies. Maybe she started to think that, wow, we need to fight for illegals to be here. But it takes a big toll on the American economy. Donald Trump is doing the best that he can, but he can only do so much without Congress or without other people doing their part. And he can still do his part, but it's going to take a lot longer. Right now, it's almost as if you do something to an ICE agent. We see videos with people spitting on them, or wanting to spit on them, and being really aggressive, and they have to hold back. But when you have a vehicle, that vehicle can hurt. That we know that the vehicle can be considered a weapon. I don't necessarily agree with taking a lady's life. However, I was not there. How would you feel in that situation? You have a few seconds to make a tough decision, right? We saw what happened. Okay, Pastor. So you guys tell me, did you think that it was lawful? I think it's a tough call. Why was that car there? There's just so many things, you guys, so many things. They hate Americans and America. You can't do this in other countries. Sanctuary states are a problem. Gavin, I live in California. If you guys know anything about Gavin Newsom, you already know what I was about to say about sanctuary states. Are you kidding me, lady? I hope they grab you. John Toomey, I was born here. So that's very anti-American of you. She was turning around and trying to leave. She almost ran into the guy. And on ice, a car can easily drag you, even other. So that's what made me, that's why I said what I said, Dr. Manhattan. Are you Latina? My nationality doesn't really matter, does it? I'll be happy when we stop talking about race in this country, which probably will never happen. It will never, the race question will never end until people stop using race. Okay? That's another conversation for another day when we talk about DEI. I will not dare talk about it tonight. Now she was trying to hit old boy. Model, that's all I'm saying. And she was following the agents for a while. You can't do this in other countries. And it's funny that you guys asked me about being Latino, okay? As a black woman, I don't like what's happening in this country. And I find it offensive when people ask me my race when I'm speaking about this subject. And this is the only reason why. Because I've always been, for the most part of my life, I've been Republican. And a lot of times people come up to me and they say outrageous things because they assume because of the way that I look, I would be Democrat. But did you guys hear what J.D. Vance said about traditional values and families and getting married and building communities? That's what we want. Why? Because it builds stability, it builds community, and teaching things other than that. I'm not saying that everybody has to get married. I'm not saying that. But there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with putting America first and making sure that America's okay. Illegal immigration takes a huge toll on the American economy. And having unprotected borders, no other country has unprotected borders. Why? Because they can't protect their citizens that way. You must hate yourself. Trump is dividing community. So Nuri, you don't really make sense, because if I must hate myself based off of what I said. You drew that conclusion from absolutely nothing. Let me move right along. Jerome, it added billions to our economy. Illegal immigration did. How's that? How's that? It takes a toll on the economy. I really wish I could find a footage of this. If you guys could see what I'm talking about, right? Wait, maybe this is it. Hold on. No. If you guys could see what is happening, even look at. This isn't like a good clip. This isn't a good clip of what I wanted to show you guys at all. But just look at you tell me if this looks like it should be happening in America. Okay? Look at this. Can y'all see it? I'm going to share it like this. Does that look okay? You're supporting hate towards people who look like you. Immigrants pay literally. Nuri, ma'am, are you okay? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Where are you getting this stuff? Let's watch this, okay? This is what they want us to be okay with. Sorry, I'm gonna share it like this. Look at that. Why is this okay? I'm going to tell you. Thank you. Now, I have to say this. There's only one reason why. See, you guys think that they're fighting to keep people here because they're happy that they're here. No, it's all to pass the Democratic vote. Let's bring people here, give them a bunch of stuff that the Americans can't even get. So that way it will go towards, that they're going to vote Democrat. So people don't even realize the game that they're playing, right? He had a gun in her head. I'm trying to look at your comments. Whether she tried to hit the agent or not is irrelevant. If the agent felt the life is in danger, exactly. Let's see if I can find another news clip to show you guys what I'm trying to. The reason why it's taking me so long is because I'm finding clips that's not going to get me demonetized. Right, I'm having trouble with that.
Welcome to the news.
But it's pretty scary what's happening right now. What's happening with the Somalians and daycare and fraud, and there's just a lot of things. And I give Donald Trump a lot of credit for cleaning it up. I give him a lot of credit for doing it with all the backlash, and he's making the decisions that he has to make. With Venezuela, I will be watching that trial. I will be covering that trial. I'm not understanding why so many people are crying about this trial, because our relationship with Venezuela has been declining since 1999, and it wasn't getting any better. Donald Trump tried to meet with Maduro. It didn't go well, and here we are today. And now he has to go through this trial because of the crimes that he's committed against the United States. Oh, Claude, what'd you say? I'm sorry. That's part of the problem. We don't talk about race relations enough. It's like we're trying to avoid the topic about it. How do things get better if we don't have frank discussions about it? Claude, I do agree, and it is hard to talk about race relations. I don't mind talking about anything. You ask me about something, if I see your comment, I'll answer. When it comes to race, I feel that it's really complicated in the United States. And I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave it. We can have a conversation about it, but only if we can have a real conversation about it. This country was divided before Trump. One white influencer takes some video outside of a daycare, no evidence. Nuri, you're off. I don't know what you're talking about. Demonetize spreading lies, hypocrisy for money instead of getting a real job. Aztec, there you go with your assuming that I don't work. And I can definitely tell when the left is in the house, because I don't mind you guys being on the left. I love you guys, okay? But just be reasonable. What makes you think I don't work? I work. I'm college educated. I went to the military. I served my country. I've never used, I'm not sure how you came to the conclusion that I don't work. I do work, and I expect every other American to work for what they want. I don't care your race. You can't keep getting a handout. Donald Trump did the best thing by saying that you cannot be on food stamps and stuff like that forever. So I am very happy with the way that things are going. I think it could be a lot better if he didn't have so much pushback. What I showed you right now, these ICE agents that's there, you see people in their faces. You see people antagonizing them and rage baiting them. That's what you see. So I can only imagine. I'm not justifying unaliving this lady. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Live Asian. I don't know what that was, so I'm not going to highlight that. But thank you for the super sticker. I don't know about the message, but thank you. That's what you see. And I'm not trying to convince you guys of anything, but I'll show you clips. I will show you stats, but people are going to believe what they want to believe. You guys know that there wasn't a lot of places that I could speak and that I could really share my opinions on the things that was going on. And I saw the right getting slaughtered for just saying simple things like men are men and women are women. And men can't have babies and men can't have periods. They're getting like that, and Republicans are racist. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I want to hear more conservative news. I want to hear from both sides. I want to be able to decide for myself. So I decided, to open up a platform so we can talk about it and have conversations, real conversations, okay? Good job, Ice. What about Nuri? What about them? That's obviously a rare condition, and that's obviously not what I'm talking about. No common sense. You don't believe in science. I believe in reality. I'm not talking about genetic hiccups, but there you go, off subject, Nuri, and you've honestly taken enough of my time, so you can type in the chat, but talk amongst every other person. Make America strong. Make America strong. Make America strong. Okay. Are we still okay? Are we still friends? I just don't like. Hang on. This isn't a good photo, but this to me is just scary.
At least 2 groups gathered there in the last
You guys
hour,
can't really
including
see.
some New York lawmakers and advocates who are calling for more protection for immigrant families. This is another live look at a march happening near Foley
So
Square.
I don't know. You are evil against. Oh God, I'm not reading your comments. I'd rather hear from people that think like I that's going to actually think about what they're saying. This anarchy is what the left represents now, and they protect criminals and illegals and forget about the citizens of this country. What are your thoughts on Venezuela? What are your thoughts on Venezuela? Star Wars politics. My thoughts on Venezuela is they got rid of a dictator. There was a lot of things that was happening in Venezuela that was against American interests. I love the fact that Donald Trump is taking a hard stance against drugs coming into this country, gangs, and the other things that benefit other countries, but it was tearing down the United States. They were committing crimes against the United States. For Donald Trump to go over there and capture Maduro, I think people are forgetting that Biden also talked about getting Maduro, but he didn't make it happen. Trump talked about it since his first term in office. All right. And now they captured him and his wife. I don't think they got the son yet. I'm pretty sure they didn't. And I will be watching this trial. And I'll be cheering for America. Where did you serve and what countries have you been to? Where did I serve? California, is that what you mean? Just like you believe the Haitians were eating cats and dogs. Nuri, how do you know what I believe? I've never spoke about my beliefs. We need to stop Tim Walz. We need to stop Tim Walz. Thankfully, he's not going for a third bid. And hopefully he will be prosecuted. Now, can they get Newsom? Can you guys do something about Newsom? Imagine if he was to try to run for presidency in 2028. I'm all about, I'm going to stand behind Donald Trump. He hasn't even been in office for a year yet. Not quite. I'm from Ohio, 10 minutes down from where they damaged. She said California. I was in the military. I'm not about to go and tell you guys where all I've been. That's all you need to know. I served my country, and this isn't about me. You guys are asking my race, my nationality, making assumptions and all those kind of things. This really isn't about me. I honestly hope Trump shuts down Walz. Me too, Star Wars politics. Me too. Hey, Brandon. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Chuck Jones. Thank you so much. Instead, they want to ask me, where did I serve, and all these other questions as if somehow I'm here for an interview. California, I live in the desert. Thank you so much. Thank you for actually being a thinker and mid-intelligent being. And yeah, people like Benny are heading to Cali for Newsom. Please get Newsom. Newsom is horrible. And people, when we had those wildfires out here and we had water, but we didn't have water. We couldn't take out the fires. It's like Newsom. There's so many things I could say about him, but that's another stream for another day. But I live in California. He's done so much damage, so much fraud, so much corruption, and nobody really wants to talk about it. San Diego's best. You have my vote, Richard. San Diego is awesome. A man can't have no demonstration. Jerome, when I saw that podcaster and other people saying that men can have menstruation periods and all those other things, you guys know that I do think that had a lot to do with why the Biden-Harris administration lost the election. Harris was not going to win. She wanted open borders, number one. And she was all for men playing in women's sports, gender reassignment surgery in prison, where the American people had to pay for this. If you guys saw the 60-minute interview that she did, she got caught up in it. They nailed her on it. She tried to laugh her way out of it. That would have been horrible. And I'm in California. I'm very familiar with Harris and the damage that she's done here in California, and Californians have known. There is no way. Donald Trump, he could not have won California. But because Harris and Biden were so awful, he won. Calling the host dumb while hiding your face. Agent Smith, they're calling me dumb. It is what it is. I can't help that you guys call me dumb. Why do I laugh about it? Because you go to name calling when you can't prove your point. So by calling me down, you just prove your point. I'm going to continue to try to. I'm going to continue to speak the way that I speak on this platform, because you got enough places that's going to coddle you, that's going to tell you what's what, and that you're going to get all these things. Like, look at what's happening in New York. How are they going to have free daycare, free transportation? Where's the money going to come from? Nothing is free. Somebody's going to pay for it. And it's things like that. Just trying to it's one thing to have hope, and it's another to be in reality. I saw the video. She was, okay, Alan. Sounds like the leftist. Okay, Chuck Jones. I'll leave that up for a second. I really want to, let me see something. I almost want to go to Minnesota to film there, but I don't have the time to take off. When I went to the protest out here in California for Trump, that was unreal, you guys. It was crazy. Okay. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. I probably won't be able to find it. Give me 1 second. Again.
Announcing a new position to combat taxpayer fraud in Minnesota and.
Okay, I'm back, you guys. I don't know if you could. Hopefully, I can. Because it's easier for me just to show you instead of trying to tell you what's going on here. Okay. I don't want you to take my word for it. Hold on. Don't take my lovely word for it. Try to get this for you. I'll be right back.
Beyond.
We have actually activated a major interagency task force to make it possible to get to the heart of this fraud. We are creating a new assistant attorney general position who will have nationwide jurisdiction over the issue of fraud. Now, of course, that person's efforts will start and focus primarily in Minnesota, but it is going to be a nationwide effort because, unfortunately, the American people have been defrauded in a very nationwide way.
Let's bring in House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, a Minnesota Republican. Welcome to you, sir. Okay, so where does all of this go next?
Well, hopefully where it's been headed ever since President Trump, Sandra, did a Friday night truth posting about the fraud in Minnesota and the Somali theft. We've been trying to sound the alarm on this fraud for years. There was an oversight committee hearing yesterday where the witnesses confirmed that this has been out there for more than a decade. A lot of us have been sending letters and requests and trying to get the media to report on it. It wasn't until Donald Trump actually made it an issue that it started to move. And the assistant U.S. attorney, the U.S. attorney in Minnesota, estimates the fraud under the Walz administration, Sandra, could top $9 billion. I mean, there's daycare fraud, there's autism center fraud, there's housing stabilization fraud. There's the largest pandemic fraud case in the country, $250 million. And by the way, of the 86 people charged, 90% of them come from the Somali community. So this is a huge problem in Minnesota. We do not believe that it's isolated in Minnesota, but very grateful for the administration making this a top priority because Minnesotans deserve better.
We were talking to the Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer just a short time ago. He thought that the $9 billion that appears to have been identified thus far could just be the tip of the iceberg, and that it could go a lot deeper than this. The vice president, you probably saw, he had a briefing just a short time ago. He was asked about Governor Walz. Here's his characterization of the governor.
Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new assistant attorney general position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people.
So he thinks that Governor Walz should resign and resign now, not wait until his time in office is up. What do you think?
Totally agree. I mean, you could try to argue that this is just gross incompetence, John, but you're talking billions of dollars going out in the 7 years you've been governor. And yesterday, by the way, the witnesses in that oversight committee hearing all said that Tim Walz knew about the fraud while it was happening, literally was told by whistleblowers about the fraud, and he not only ignored them, John, he retaliated against them. So I agree with the vice president completely. Tim Walz is a buffoon. He's got to accept responsibility, stop being a coward. He should resign, and he'll likely, if he doesn't, leave the office with cuffs on his hands, on his wrists, because there should be criminal charges based on what has happened.
Got it. Okay, interesting. The White House, meanwhile, has created this new role to fight taxpayer fraud. Do you think it's going to help?
I do. I think this is a problem all across the country. Like we know, Minnesota happens to be a priority for a lot of reasons because it's just so rampant. But get ready. I mean, once they see what's been happening in Minnesota, they're going to see the same pattern in other states. It's time that the American taxpayers be respected, that people understand these dollars are intended for the children, for disabled, for single mothers. We can't let fraudsters, and in my state, Somali fraudsters, come in and literally rip off the public and send the money back to terrorists like al-Shabaab in Somalia, which, by the way, Sandra, that's why I'm going to be dropping legislation that provides that anyone who commits fraud, comes to this country and takes advantage of our generosity and refuses to assimilate, they can be denaturalized and returned to their country of origin. Any type of fraud, by the way, Sandra.
So we're looking forward to another hearing of the Oversight Committee next month, at which we will see, but it's expected that Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, may attend. Some fireworks yesterday during that hearing, most of them, it would seem, between the chairman and Congresswoman Summer Lee of Pennsylvania. Listen to this exchange between the two here.
Ms. Lee, the IGs are hired to identify fraud. They haven't identified fraud. The IGs have failed. But anyway.
You all have failed.
No,
you all continue
you
to
all
fail.
have
We've
failed.
done nothing. You've had the gavel, Mr. Comer. We barely do hearings on
How do you
anything
say
that
we
actually
failed?
affects
You have
change.
failed. You want to spend
have
more
power
money,
here,
more money,
and
more
yet
money.
you don't do anything.
I mean, she was incensed over the firing of 17 inspectors general, which the chairman said hadn't been uncovering fraud, so why should they get to keep their jobs? But I mean, it wasn't really so much an investigation on the Democratic side into the root of fraud in Minnesota. It was just yelling at the Republicans.
You know, John, it's much like what is so disgusting about what Tim Walz is doing right now. He's using a tragedy that took place in Minnesota yesterday. He's literally pitting Minnesotans against federal agents, and he's doing it to deflect attention away from his incredible incompetence and perhaps complicit behavior in allowing this billion-dollar fraud scandal to develop over the course of his representation as governor in the state of Minnesota. So I'm not surprised that the Democrat on Jamie's committee would try to scream and yell and divert attention from what the real issue is. And think about this. Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, our attorney general, didn't find any fraud in 7 years, and a young YouTube journalist named Nick Shirley found more fraud in 1 day than they did in 7 years. It's hard to understand unless somebody is complicit and not just looking the other way. And we need to get to the bottom of that.
All right, sir, we appreciate you joining us here on America Reports. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Congressman.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
That lady was fired from her job.
Quite a bit of decorating since I've been here last.
Well, I have.
Great to see you, sir.
I didn't know it was a full hour. I thought it was going to be maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But you do that to me every once in a while.
I think I was pretty clear, but thank you for your time. We always appreciate it. There's really not much in the news, so there's not a real lot to talk about, but let's start with Venezuela. Narco-terrorist, indicted, guy that we're losing 200 Americans a day to drugs.
Yeah.
Walk us through this decision in Venezuela.
Well, it wasn't a hard decision. Democrats wanted him and Republicans wanted him, and nobody had what it takes to get him or didn't want to get him. I don't know, something happened, but he killed a lot of people. He sent a lot of bad people into our country. He emptied his prisons into the United States. He emptied his mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States and did a lot of very bad things, but he was a big drug pusher. You see that because all the boats that we shot down, they came out of Venezuela. A lot of drugs. There's a lot of boats and a lot of drugs. There are very few boats operating right now. It's almost no boats. You can't find any boats.
I don't think anyone would go fishing in those
Not a lot of
waters.
people want to go fishing anymore. But we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by water. And we are going to start now hitting land with regard to the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico. It's very, very sad to watch and see what's happened to that country. But the cartels are running and they're killing 250, 300,000 people in our country every single year. The drugs, it's horrible. It's devastated families. You know, you lose a child or a parent. I mean, parents are dying too with drugs. So we've done a really good job. We're knocking it down. The numbers are really getting to be, they're always going to be too high if you have one person, but they're going down just like the border. The border was a total mess for years. I did it the first time very quickly, and this time I did it even better because this was a bigger mess. This was a border like no other probably in the history of the world. There's never been a border like that when anybody could just walk into your country.
The border's ostensibly really closed now.
Closed. You can't come in. And nobody comes. Nobody even tries. And the people in Texas, Arizona, all these places that are won by such big numbers, they are so happy with the border. They had homes that they weren't even able to live in their home. Every day people were knocking on their door, every hour. And it's just a great honor to be involved with it. The ICE and Border Patrol and all of the people have been so good. Tom Home and Christy Nome. The people have done such an incredible job. You have no idea.
You've made a number of profound announcements and then a new announcement today. Announcement number one was 30 to 50 million barrels of oil that they will be handing over to you, and you will sell it on the market at market prices.
Yeah.
That money will be used for the people of Venezuela and the people of America.
Right.
Then you made an announcement yesterday that they will buy all of their goods from this country. Today, we learn that the holdovers, since Maduro's gone, have agreed to free all of the political prisoners.
Right.
It indicates they want peace with Donald Trump to me. How do you interpret it?
Well, we asked them to do that, and they've been great. They really have been. I mean, everything we've wanted, they've given us. We went in, we took Maduro out. Amazingly, that nobody was killed. We didn't lose a soldier. We had some people wounded, but we didn't lose a soldier. A couple of very brave helicopter pilots were wounded pretty badly, but they're good. They're in good shape. And it was an amazing attack. The other side lost a lot of people, unfortunately. But, you know, this house was in the middle of a fort with thousands of people and soldiers and everything else. And we went right into the middle of a fort. Who would think you could do that and not lose anybody? But they had it planned so beautifully. General Raisin Kane and Pete Hegseth were fantastic. Marco's been doing a great job. Vice President, the whole group it's just a fantastic group.
Let's talk a little bit about,
you make these decisions. I don't care if it's this case, Operation Midnight Hammer. In the one case, you're here in the White House in the Situation Room. You're watching this unfold in real time. In this case, you have operationally the same thing, a Situation Room down in Palm Beach at Mar-a-Lago. You make that ultimate call. You are the commander in chief.
Right.
You're watching it unfold in real time. What is that like?
Well, I've done it now quite a bit. We took out Soleimani, which was a big deal. I mean, a very big deal. Middle East. It was very bad to people. Killed a lot of people. Everybody you see, just about 95% of the people you see walking around without legs or without arms, that was the roadside bomb. That was his baby. He loved it. We took him out. We took out al-Baghdadi. He's the founder of ISIS. We did Midnight Hammer, which was obliterate the Iran nuclear threat. And it was a total obliteration, as they found out. The B-2 bombers and the best pilots anywhere in the world. They did that at night with no moon, totally dark, and every bomb went right down an air shaft deep into a granite mountain. It was amazing. And we did this, and there's similar in a way. I don't know. This seems to have gotten the imagination, maybe even more than the other ones. But I think they're very equal in many ways. But I don't know. Maybe taking out the nuclear threat from Iran, it's very important. But in terms of captivating attention, this seems to be something that is beyond anything that anybody's seen.
Especially the operational details.
Well, the bravery involved, I mean, to have people going into an army fort with, thousands of soldiers, land a helicopter right in the middle of it, break down a steel door, because, it was a fortified house, break down a steel door, run through the hallway shooting, and come out 10 minutes later with the guy who wasn't quite able to get into his safe house. There's a safe.
I heard they got to him within 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes.
It was so fast. I mean, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And but the safe house wasn't safe because they had blowtorches that go through steel like it's butter. They didn't have to use them. But we have, these are great people. These are really brave people. Even coming down those ropes, they're coming down ropes off the helicopter and they run them. I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I could do that. I'm gonna have to give it a try sometime. But they do it like it's a stairway, like it's a beautiful stairway. And they're on the ground instantly and they're ready for action. These are brave people. We have the greatest soldiers in the world. We have the greatest equipment in the world. Nobody can match us. I rebuilt the entire military during my first term.
Good thing you did.
Biden gave some of it away, a lot of it, but not a lot relative to what I bought. But he gave a big chunk to Afghanistan, which was just insane. That was one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of our country. This was the opposite. This was a total, if you think about Jimmy Carter with the hostages, or you think about the Afghanistan disaster that we had not so long ago with Biden, where it was just mass confusion and the death of 13 great soldiers who I got to know. I got to know the families very well. Great people, but also, and nobody talks about them, 48 people so badly injured and hundreds of people dead. Hundreds of people, when those bombs were off, because I count the other side, but there were hundreds of people killed, all because of an incompetent group of politicians and generals and people that shouldn't be there.
Let's talk a little bit, maybe an underreported story, but we know for a fact that both the Russians and the Chinese provided missile and ballistic missile systems. They did it to both. They helped Iran and they helped Venezuela. But you were able to dismantle that. You talk a lot about American military superiority. And then that goes into the issue that you raised this week of raising the budget for 2027 from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion.
We need it. When you look at the threat out there, we have the best equipment in the world. We make the best equipment in the world. We make just, there's nothing even close. But we need it because there are some real threats out there.
Yeah, well, I think we certainly do. Let me ask you about this. And I think this is important. With every military operation comes risk. and you have to obviously weigh that risk. And I think Americans would want to know what goes into your thinking, because there's a whole new military doctrine. I call it the Trump doctrine. I think it's widely misunderstood. No forever wars. However, that doesn't mean you don't use the might and power of the U.S. military. You mentioned Baghdadi, Soleimani. I'll add the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan, the ISIS caliphate, and then taking out Iran's nuclear weapon sites. And now our hemisphere.
Right.
Are you calling it the Monroe Doctrine?
Well, they call it the Monroe. I didn't call it that, but they're calling it the Monroe Doctrine. Now they call it the Monroe, which is basically safety for this part of the world. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. We don't want drugs pouring into our country. We don't want bad people coming into our country, like happened for 4 years under Biden, who was a disgrace, worst president in the history of our country. Horrible. We had some other bad ones. Let me tell you, Obama was a terrible president. The divisiveness and the hatred that was caused, and many of the people allowed into the country. But what Biden did was a step beyond anything that anybody's ever done, where you had millions of people pouring through the border. Now we have nobody coming in unless they come in legally.
Let's talk about, you said for the interim, you will be in charge. Okay. Obviously, the remaining leadership underneath Maduro, they've made, I mentioned earlier, 3 major concessions, 30 to 50 million barrels of oil. They're going to buy and purchase all their goods from America. Now they're releasing political prisoners.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your ultimate goal for the governance of Venezuela?
Prisoners that nobody thought they would ever see again are being released, yeah. And in many cases, good people is what I understand. But prisoners, nobody ever thought they'd be released. So we're going to be working.
You guys, I'm quiet during the video because I have to mute my microphone. I can't talk because it makes an echo. I'm going to play more, but I'm going to tell you guys this. The reason why I say, do you support Donald Trump? Press 1, because I really feel that as conservative thinkers, we do got to stick together. There's so many people trying to silence us, trying to call us racist. Well, call you guys racist. I'm Black. But try to call you guys racist and say that you're demonic and things like that. So I love to know if there's more conservative thinkers out there, and, give you a platform to speak. You guys can speak. I want to listen more to what Donald Trump is saying, because he's explaining a lot of things that you don't need to hear from me. You can listen to the clip yourself. And I believe in putting America first, and I stand for our country. And I love hearing the president speak. I love seeing it, because he's doing exactly what the American people voted for him to do. How do I get back to my video? Here we go.
With them and leadership of the country. And so far, we've been working very well. We picked up the Russian freighter that trudged out there.
Well, I want to ask you about that.
Well, they had some Russian ships guarding it, and they decided not to mess around with us. And we took that one, and that's unloading the oil. But we're taking billions and billions of dollars worth of oil, and it'll be hundreds of billions of dollars. It'll be trillions of dollars, but we're going to be there till we straighten out the country. We'll see how the country's doing, but we'll be running the oil. We're meeting tomorrow with all of the big oil executives. We're going to be right here in the White House. We're going to meet with the, biggest oil people in the world. They're all coming here. The top 14 companies are coming here. They're going to go in. They're going to rebuild the whole oil infrastructure. They're going to spend at least $100 billion. And it's an unbelievable oil that they have, and an unbelievable quality of oil and amount of oil.
When they nationalized the oil industry in Venezuela, going back to the 1920s, American companies had invested billions.
We built it.
All of it.
And then it was taken away from us.
Stolen.
It was stolen from us. And it was taken away, years ago over a period of time, but it was taken away in the early 2000s, even beyond that, but the early 2000s. And I just took it back.
I can't imagine them being able to, they have the largest oil reserves in the world. I can't imagine without American investment, ingenuity, engineering, and our assistance that they would ever be able to tap into the vast resources that they have. Again, the largest in the entire world. So that will be a big part of it. What does that mean in terms of America's new partnership with Venezuela?
Well, it means lower oil prices all over the world, which is great for everybody. It means lower oil prices for America, which I have it down. Don't forget, I inherited a mess. They talk about affordability. There was no affordability under Biden. He had the worst inflation in history, the highest and worst inflation in history. Prices were through the roof, and I'm fixing it. I inherited a mess. I say it all the time. I inherited, because people don't understand, I inherited a mess. Open borders, millions of people in this country that shouldn't be. We're moving them out. We're moving them out pretty rapidly too. Murderers and drug dealers and just some of the worst people in the world came in, not only from Venezuela, from all over the Congo. The Congo sent us tremendous numbers of people. I don't know what it is with the Congo. They open their jails and they walk into our country. They drive them up to our front entrance. They get out and they walk right into our country. And these are tough, hardened criminals. These are real criminals, and from many countries. I mean, they came from Africa, they came from the Middle East, they came from South America, but a lot came from Venezuela. He opened his prisons and sent all of the people from his prisons into the United States. Why not? I do the same thing about it. You take the people, they're nothing but trouble for you, and they're killers, and they're the worst people that you can imagine. I mean, some of the crimes are so bad you wouldn't believe it. We just accepted them into our country. Nobody did anything about it. So we're getting them out. Washington, D.C., as an example, was very dangerous, and now it's very safe. I mean, everybody's coming to Washington. It's a very safe city now. And before, when I took over, it was really a danger. It got really bad. We had it pretty good, but it wasn't really a focus because you didn't hear the level of danger until my second term. My first term, we watched Washington. But it wasn't like it was the big deal. Now, all of a sudden, when I came here, I was hearing stories about the kind of crime that they had here. People come in from Iowa and from Indiana and great places, and they end up calling the parents that your son has been killed. Doesn't happen anymore. We have a very safe, Washington, D.C. is a very safe city. We put our National Guard there. They're all central casting. You take a look at these guys, it's great. We won the case on merit, based on merit from the Supreme Court, a great victory, a courageous victory, actually. But this country is now based on merit again.
Let me ask you about Maria Corina Machado. I've had her on TV this week.
Yeah, she's a very nice person.
Okay, she won the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah. When she accepted that Peace Prize, she dedicated it to you. She said to me this week, both on TV and radio, that she wants to give the Nobel Prize, her Nobel Peace Prize, to you for liberating her country. In 2023, she won over 92% of the vote to be the leader of the opposition. Maduro kept her off the ballot. Do you have any plans to meet with her? And would you accept the Nobel Prize she wants to hand to you?
Well, I understand she's coming in next week sometime. And I look forward to saying hello to her. And I've heard that she wants to do that. That would be a great honor. I did put out 8 wars, 8 and a quarter, because, Thailand and Cambodia started going at it again. So
I'll put the list up.
I give a quarter. So it's, you put the list out. It's a hell of a list. But I've stopped 8 wars. And I think, it's been a major embarrassment to Norway. Now, I don't know what Norway has to do with it, but that's where the committee is located, a lot of Norwegian people. And it's been a very big embarrassment to the country of Norway, whether they have anything to do with it or not. I think they do. They say they don't. But, when you put out 8 wars, in theory, you should get one for each war, okay? Because some of these wars were going on for 30 years. India, Pakistan was ready to go at it big. And these are 2 nuclear countries. I got that one stopped. 8 planes were shot down. They were really at it, and I got it stopped. It was a big one. You look at the Congo, Rwanda and the Congo. They've been fighting for 30 years, and I got it stopped. I got so many wars. So it's such a beautiful thing. It makes me feel so good. Not because of a Nobel Prize, but because I saved millions and millions of lives. And that's what really makes me feel good.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our
Let me go back to this issue of the political future for the people of Venezuela.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. You mentioned all of the criminals and let me go back to this issue of the
So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens over there. They know, though.
interesting. You mentioned all of the criminals and the people let out of prisons that were sent to our borders in our country. That's Tren de Aragua. That's cartel members.
Some of the worst criminals in the world were let into our country.
Known terror ties.
Biden's open border policy. Anybody could come in.
And that will get into the issue of Minneapolis going on right now. But back to this one issue, do you foresee a Venezuela that will have free and fair elections? And I would have little doubt that the opposition would probably win handily if they were free and if they were fair.
Yeah, I do see that. I think that's happening. But before we do that, it's going to take a while to do. We have to rebuild the country. They couldn't have an election. They wouldn't even know how to have an election right now. The country's become third world, and they wouldn't know how to have an election right now. We're going to rebuild the oil and the oil infrastructure. We'll be in charge of it. It's going to do great and make a lot of money. And we're going to take it from there, but we're going to rebuild the country. And ultimately, you're going to have elections.
When you talk about increasing defense spending, I go back to the campaign and I go back to your first term, foreign policy usually doesn't get a lot of discussion. And in many ways, you have dedicated a lot of time, energy, and resources.
Very important for our country.
How is that in America's first interest? Because that's what you stand for.
Well, like the Middle East was blowing up when I got in. It was everybody was fighting everybody, which in all fairness has been going on for about 3,000 years in the Middle East. And we now have peace in the Middle East. Nobody thought that was possible. But you have some great countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and many other countries that have been around a long time. They're very wealthy. They were in many ways put out of business. They weren't able to do business. Tremendous wealth for the world. The oil supply was hurt. Everything was hurt. I mean, you had things happening in the Middle East that were bad, not only in Gaza with the death and the destruction going on for years. And it's been cleaned up. It's amazing. It's been cleaned up. Now, there'll be some remnants right now. We're going to have to see what happens with Hamas. We're going to have to see what happens with Hezbollah and Lebanon. But we have 59 countries that signed on, and they want to go in and help if we should have to do something with Hamas, which is a possibility. I think they're going to do what they said they were going to do. They were going to disarm, but they've been armed for a long time.
They've been a little slow to disarm.
Yeah, they've been a little bit slow.
Will you support Israel? Will you put them on a timetable?
Well, I would, but first we'll see whether or not they're going to be disarming. Look, I'm all for it if they don't. They made the promise that they were.
If they don't.
They've made an agreement that they're going to disarm. So we're going to have to assume that they're going to, but it's not their nature to disarm. It's not exactly their nature. Hezbollah's been very bad in Lebanon. But overall, I mean, we have an amazing situation compared to what it was. And we really do have peace in the Middle East. And I will say Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and other countries have been amazing. They've been, so helpful in getting it done. But the biggest thing was the attack on Iran. If you had a strong Iran, a respected Iran, a powerful Iran, like I guess it was at one point, a year and a half ago, you wouldn't have been able to make peace because the other countries wouldn't have been able to have that dark cloud hanging over them. And they, by knocking out their nuclear potential, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 months. By knocking that, that's why I had to go in.
No.
Every president wanted to go in, and none of them did.
You mean you didn't want to send cargo planes of cash and other currency?
No, it's terrible. I mean, I've never seen hundreds of millions of dollars were sent in cash on Boeing 757s, beautiful Boeing 7. They opened, the cash was piled up to the ceiling. I never even knew a president could do that. How do you do that? What do you do? Call the banks? They emptied out every bank in Virginia and Maryland to get that cash, and they sent it over there and gave it to them. No, we took the opposite approach, exactly the opposite approach.
Are you following the protesting that is taking place all over the country of Iran?
Yeah,
now?
I'm following it very
And
closely.
have you read that the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has a plan B to go to Russia?
Or someplace, yeah. He's looking to go someplace.
Do you believe that
It's getting very
Iran,
bad.
you think the country is on the verge of collapsing?
Well, it could be. I mean, what they've done is in the past, they've started shooting the hell out of people. And all of a sudden, people without any weapons whatsoever are standing there and you have machine guns gunning them down. Or they take them to prisons and then hang them and kill them. So they played rough. And I said, if they do that, we're going to hit them very hard. Well, we're going to hit them hard. We're ready to do it. If they do that, we're going to hit them hard. And so far, for the most part, there's been some of it, but for the most part, they haven't. There have been people killed. Some of them, the crowds are so big that some of them have had really were stomped on. Literally, it was terrible. The crowds are just they're massive. The enthusiasm to overturn that regime is incredible. But there's been people killed, but it's more from death it's literally stomping. It's people running in a certain direction. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens over there. They know, though, that it's a stampede is, I guess, the best word. They have like a stampede. You talk about stampede for cattle. But the people are stampeding, and you're losing a lot of people with the stampedes. There's so many people protesting. Nobody's ever seen anything like what's happening right now. But I have put Iran on notice that if they start shooting at them, these people are totally unarmed people. And they love their country. They want something to happen. Look at their country. They've gone back 150 years. But I've told them that if they do anything bad to these people, we're going to hit them very hard.
So if there is mass murder by the Iranian Ayatollahs and those leadership, you're pledging to the people of Iran that you will come to their aid.
I've said it very loud and very clear. Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
I have this hat. I guess you were playing golf with Lindsey Graham.
I did that for Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Just real quick, you guys, I'm going to get to the rest of that, but I was looking up some random things about Republicans. I see why you guys keep asking why am I Republican. About 8 in 10 Republicans are non-Hispanic or white. I really don't like the race thing. I just found that interesting. I think more people that look like me should vote Republican. So if that's the case, I have the perfect platform because that means we need to speak more about it. Okay? Because the Republicans are, the Democratic Party is, I'll say that conversation for another day. Why I vote Republican and why I will only vote Republican. I just found that interesting. Let me get back to the video. Sorry. Going on mute.
It says make Iran great again.
And what he means by that, because I said, this is a little tricky hat.
Yeah.
Why do you want me to sign this hat?
I don't know.
He's
Can I
really
auction
talking
this
about
off on
the
eBay?
riots.
Can I sell this?
Yeah,
It's
you
probably
can
worth a lot of money.
It's got my signature.
Yeah.
No, but he asked me to sign that. I said, there's a lot of definitions for that. And what he's talking about is the people that are, protesting, I guess is the only word you can use. It's really the biggest protest I've ever seen. The people that are protesting, if they take over the country, he wants to see if Iran can be great again. Years ago, a friend of mine was a developer from New York, and I was a young developer, and he went to Iran and he built buildings in Iran, and he made a lot of money, and he did very well. And it was like condos and rentals, and he loved Iran. He thought it was great. And he did a lot of work there. He did a tremendous amount of work. He loved the people. He thought they were so incredible. And then it all stopped when this stuff started happening.
1979.
Yeah, it
Then
stopped like magic.
444 days, Americans held hostage.
Yeah, that was right. It was not a good time for Jimmy Carter. It wasn't a good time for
America.
His politics.
No, didn't work out very well for anybody. If, in fact...
Well, I think about that, though, if I could interrupt, because, when we were going into the middle of Venezuela with helicopters landing in an army fort where you have thousands of soldiers and you have people with guns all over the place, I thought so much about that Jimmy Carter catastrophe. We had so many hostages taken, American hostages. We had the helicopters crashing. You had the sandstorms. If you had sandstorms, you should come back.
Yeah.
But they tried to blast through the sandstorm. Nature always wins. Remember?
Not with a helicopter.
Nature always wins.
Mm-hmm.
And helicopters don't have that kind of an engine. There's a lot of moving parts. They don't like sand blowing into their gears. But anyway, they decided to go forward. I should have come back. But I was thinking about that because, here we are going into actually a much more dangerous situation. If you think about it, on Venezuela, we're in a fort, a military army fort, and the house was built there for protection. And we're going in with helicopters, with jets, with helicopters. I mean, the jets preceded the helicopters and did an unbelievable. These are unbelievably talented pilots and people, and very brave people. So I was thinking a lot about the Jimmy Carter thing. I don't know what he would have done or how he would have done if that didn't happen, but there are those that say that destroyed his chances of winning election, and lost that election pretty big. He might have lost it anyway, perhaps, but there was no question after that mess. And I was saying, boy, I hope that doesn't happen with me. But we have Raising Cane and all of these great people, and they did an unbelievable job.
You started in your first term the Abraham Accords.
Right.
And I would argue beyond Israel, it's other countries in the region, Egypt, Jordan, the Saudis, and pretty much every country, that they probably were breathing a sigh of relief, as well as the Israelis, because they didn't want Iranian hegemony in the region and a nuclear-armed Iran.
Well, you had to stop that. You had no choice. And it should have been done long before I got there. It should have been done earlier. They just, you look back and Obama should have done it. They all should have done it. Clinton should have done it. Obama went the other way. I mean, Obama decided to go with Iran. I mean, I don't know how Jewish people can vote for Biden and Obama. They were absolutely on the side of Iran. They were against
or
Jewish
Mamdani.
people. Well, we're going to find out.
Your favorite mayor.
Well, I have a very nice relationship, but I thought it would take at least maybe a month or 2 months before he went after me. He hit me on the attack on Venezuela, which is pretty unusual because not too many people have hit us. That was a perfect attack. Think of what we've done. I mean, we've taken over a whole country. We're going to make the country strong and good, and we're going to ultimately be able to vote and put somebody in that they like. The oil that we've taken $4 billion worth of oil in one day, and that'll increase. We're going to have it rebuilt. All the big oil companies are coming in. They're going to make a lot of money, and Venezuela's going to get some of that money, and we're going to get some of that money. And we brought stability to the region. We brought stability and much lower oil prices. We have gasoline now down to, in many cases, $1.99 a gallon. And with Biden, it was $4.50, $5. We have it we brought it way down. We've done a great job. On the word affordability, prices are way down. They're going to go lower. Prices, everything follows oil. Oil is so big. Everything follows oil. If oil prices are down, everything's down. I mean, you can look at
everything goes lower.
It affects everything. It affects a truck that delivers donuts. It affects the stove that makes the donut. It affects everything.
Two more issues on foreign policy and national security. Then I do want to do a deep dive into the economy. I want to ask you,
The economy is unbelievable.
We're going to get to that.
I know, but it's unbelievable.
Can Cuba survive without Venezuelan oil? I don't see how it can.
Can who survive?
Cuba.
No, Cuba totally relies on Venezuela for money and for oil, and they give Venezuela protection. That was always the deal. They're very tough. They're good soldiers. They got wiped out, as you know.
Yeah.
3 days ago, wiped out. I don't want to even say how many, but they got wiped out. But Cuba gives protection to Venezuela, and Venezuela gives Cuba money through oil.
Yeah.
And it's worked that way for a long time.
You talked
But
about.
it doesn't work that way anymore. So I don't know what Cuba's going to do. I think Cuba's going to fail. I don't think there are any alternatives for Cuba.
I don't know how they survive without Venezuelan
We have
energy.
great people from Cuba. Marco Rubio is great. He knows Cuba very well.
Some people said somebody told me today it was Marco's revenge.
Well, maybe it was, but they a lot of great people.
Yeah,
a lot of great people. We'll see what happens.
Well, you live in South
we
Florida.
want to do something to help Cuba.
Yeah. But you mentioned Vladimir Putin.
You know the Cubans I want to help? I want to help the Cubans in the United States that got treated so badly by Castro. Because we have a lot of Cuban population here. We have some of the best people in the country, Cuban. And I want to help those people. They got treated so badly. They left on rafts and and they got just thrown out.
Broken down.
Those people are going to be taken care of.
Broken down, dilapidated, rickety boats, shark-infested waters, inner tubes, because things were so bad there.
They came in in the worst floating vessels that there have ever been, and circled by sharks and everything else. And many of them, as you know, many of them didn't make it.
You talked about peace and your involvement around the globe and the success that you've had. You said many times that you thought the easiest conflict to resolve would be the European conflict, Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
And now you pointed out many times that it became the most difficult. A couple of things on that issue. Vladimir Putin, we did take out this Russian flag tanker along with Great Britain.
Right.
Tough decision, number one. Number two.
I didn't think it was a tough decision.
Will you support the sanctions bill? I think there are 84 or 5 senators that want.
Yeah, they only do it if it's subject to me, and I support it.
You support it.
I hope we don't have to use it. And we have big sanctions on Russia right now.
No.
Russia's economy is very bad, but they are much bigger than Ukraine. They're a much bigger, more powerful country from that
Did
standpoint.
Vladimir call you after this tanker was seized?
I don't want to say that, but the fact is that the Russian ships, it was a submarine and a destroyer. They both left very quickly when we arrived.
Yeah.
And we took over the ship, and the oil is being unloaded right now.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Now, maybe if Psaki reacted.
We continue our discussion with President Donald J. Trump. We're in the Roosevelt Room. We're in the White House. A lot of news going on around the world and here at home. Let me move on to the economy, because if you look historically, we'll talk. This is a midterm election year. 3 times in the last 100 years, the party in power was able to maintain control. 4 times in the last 150 years. You discussed this when you met with Republicans this past week. So historical trends are not with you. However, historically, peace and prosperity do drive elections. We just took a trip around the entire globe, and you have your fingerprints pretty much everywhere, all over the map. And
we've done great everywhere. It's amazing. It's an amazing phenomena that on 2 or 3 occasions, I don't know, it depends on how far you want to go back, but if you go back a long way, the sitting president, whether it's Democrat or Republican, always loses the midterm, even if they've done well, almost always. And, you'd think it would be like a 50-50 deal. Even if the president's done a great job, I think we've done a great job. We've done maybe the best job ever in the first year, but they always seem to lose the midterm, there's something down deep psychologically with the voters that they want maybe a check or something. I don't know what it is exactly, but you would think when you have a victory and then on top of the victory, you have a great successful presidency, it would be an automatic win, but it's never been a win. I mean, almost never been. You said 2 times or 3 times in 100 years. It's right around that number.
Yeah.
Think of it, out of, the elections take place every 2 years in this case. And to only win a couple of times in many, many years is hard to believe. And it doesn't make sense. And nobody's been able to define why. So I think hopefully we're going to change that, because we've had we passed a great, big, beautiful bill, tax cuts for everybody, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, deductions. If you buy a car, you take a loan from a bank, you can deduct the interest on the loan. Nobody ever thought that was going to happen. And we have so many things, and we're respected all over the world again, like we've never been respected before. I mean, we're respected. Look at NATO. NATO agreed to go from 2% to 5%, and they pay us the money. We don't lose anything in terms of money. What I do want to stop in the war with Ukraine and Russia is, last week it was just reported they lost 32,000 soldiers. The week before, for the month, the month before, they lost 27,000, and the month before that, they lost 26,000 soldiers between the two of them. And I'd like to be able to save those souls. It doesn't affect the United States very much. It really doesn't. We sell, Biden gave them $350 billion. Can you imagine? We didn't get any of it back, but I did. Actually, I made a deal for rare earth. I said, listen, if we go any further, we want rare earth. We want to get our money back. And I made a deal with Ukraine. It was a very fair deal where we get our money back. I had to work to get the money back. This is Biden's war. This isn't my war. I would like to stop it because there's so many people being killed.
Let me go to the
mostly
economy.
soldiers, but so many people.
So I've always been a movement conservative. I've always believed in supply side economics, starting with Reagan. At the time, 70 to 28%, he dropped the tax rates, longest period of peacetime economic growth. 21 million new jobs were created. Now, this one big, beautiful bill, largest tax cuts in history.
Yeah.
Unlike any president before you, you have secured trillions in monies dedicated to new manufacturing, right, including automobiles, semiconductor chips, rare earth would be part of it.
More than anybody has ever gotten.
Okay, so all of this is now it's going to be infused into the economy. It's in the hopper. It's going to be infused into the economy. But we just ended the third quarter with 4.3% GDP. We just have the lowest gas prices in 5 years, as you pointed out. That impacts everything. Everybody buys at every store that they go to. No tax, tips, overtime. Right. I worked in the service industry. I worked in the construction industry. That helps workers. That helps families. Sure. Scott Besson said that people are going to feel it in their paycheck. They're feeling it at the pump. You look at all of this. You've created a little shy of 1 million new jobs already. And
manufacturing.
That's after inheriting the economy. It's really not your economy for the first 6-8 months.
And they're private sector jobs. They're not government jobs. Don't forget, I could have the greatest numbers in history. All I have to do is hire a couple of million people, put them in government. That's what Biden did. He just put people in government. You had 10 people for one job. I did the opposite. I've trimmed down government. Any numbers that we have are with a very trimmed down government. I could come up with unemployment or employment numbers that are so good that like nobody's ever seen. Just say, fellas, hire 2 million people right now. But you can't make our country great that way. That's how you go into trouble. That's how you become Venezuela.
A lot of people don't understand. In the big, beautiful bill is something known as 100% appreciation.
Yeah.
That is putting an accelerant
1 year
on manufacturing.
Right.
You can depreciate your entire investment if you're building, for example, a manufacturing facility. In 1 year.
As opposed to 40 years.
And it may not seem like a big deal, but for people that are struggling financially, to be able to deduct the interest on your car loan, that's
so I had the most successful economy in the world in my first term. We did great. I think that was the single biggest. I had that, but that was for a much shorter period of time. It's not as good as this one. But that was the reason I believe that we were so successful. Mm-hmm. We had great jobs. We had great everything. We had the greatest economy. This economy will blow it away. I believe this economy is going to blow it away. But we have that, and now we have it for 10 years.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to
Now, maybe if Psaki reacted to praise, she'd do something about her awful show. I heard that Animal Planet beat
into fatal ICE shooting.
The general lady from Texas is recognized to strike the last word.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd ask to strike the last words.
The general lady is recognized.
Thank you.
Fox News alert, FBI on the scene in Portland, Oregon, where we just learned there's been another shooting involving Border Patrol agents in the wake of another ramming attack. According to DHS, Border Patrol agents stopped a vehicle driven by an illegal alien from Venezuela who's a member of Tren de Aragua. The passenger, a woman, was affiliated with Tren de Aragua prostitution ring and a recent shooting. When the officers tried to apprehend him, he, quote, weaponized his vehicle and tried to run them over. Fearing for his life and safety, an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger fleeing the scene. The situation is evolving and more information is forthcoming. So the story is still developing and we'll have more details soon. This comes one day after the ramming incident in Minneapolis that has sparked chaos in the city tonight.
Oh my God, drag him back. Go back. Let's get back to the sidewalk.
How many Proud Boys in the group? No, go back to January 6th.
An anti-ICE activist was shot for ramming her car into an agent. And now Minneapolis is doing what Minneapolis does best, waging war against law enforcement, jumping on the hoods of their vehicles. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino was in the city, and he got bum rushed by a gaggle of angry women.
Out of the way. Out of the way. Get out of the way.
Don't whistle at Bavino, ladies. He's happily married. And Minneapolis is even saying the F word. Floyd.
We have the right to shut these streets down. Again. Make the city pay. Again. And again. It was all about losing money when George Floyd died. We as a people can cause them to lose more money now.
The last time rioters like that woman made Minneapolis pay, the whole city got barbecued while tampons sat on his hands. The governor still hasn't learned his lesson. He's telling ICE to hit the road and let the Somali pirates keep stealing.
Please, please, whatever it is, leave Minnesota alone. And this relentless assault on Minnesota, for whatever reason, is just cruel now. It has reached cruelness. So please, just give us a break. And if it's me, you're already getting what you want. But leave my people alone. Leave our state alone.
Radicals are trying to run over ICE agents so they can't arrest drug dealers, sex traffickers, and welfare frauds. Who's the mean one, Mr. Grinch? Trump's not letting another American city get burnt to a crisp. Homan's boys aren't slowing down.
They're coming towards us right now. Stay up. You're good. You're good. So they're pushing folks back right now. As you can see behind me there, they've deployed some form of crowd repellent just in the last few seconds here. And look, this has been a lot of what we've seen over the course of the day. As someone has threw a water bottle towards those agents, which really they're heading into the crowd right now. We're going to back up. They are moving, truly sprinting into the crowd, and they are tackling folks.
Mayor Smallfry says the city's been infiltrated by terrorists.
That the act by the victim was some sort of domestic terrorism. That, and I'll say it again, is bull. That is bull. The way they've been conducting themselves is also bull. They are claiming it's about enforcing the law, and it's not. What they are doing is terrorizing communities.
Removing migrant gang members from communities isn't an act of terror. It's enforcing the law. If you don't like the law, change it. Don't drive your car into people enforcing it. If you think there's an injustice in the country, you don't attack the cops. Do a sit-in, get a permit, do a march, vote. That's how we address it in America. Politicians are exploiting a tragic death that they kind of helped cause to call for the complete abolishment of immigration law.
We would love to see that escalated and see ICE be abolished altogether because they are the imminent threat to the safety of civilians, not just here in Minneapolis and Minnesota, but all across the country.
Tren de Aragua isn't a threat to the safety of civilians. MS-13 isn't a threat. 20 million foreigners pour into the country. Thousands of them drunk driving, trafficking, molesting kids. That's the threat. Enforcing the law only threatens the people breaking it.
They will be there enforcing the laws of this country and upholding the public safety needs that have to happen when it comes to enforcing federal law. We've got thousands of officers there, and I'm not opposed to sending more if necessary to keep people safe.
Walz is treating this like the Civil War. He says this is Gettysburg, and ICE fired the first shot.
When things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line for the nation on that July 3rd, 1863. And I think now we may be in that moment.
Can we please calm down? This is not the Civil War. This isn't even close to the Civil War. The governor shouldn't be throwing gas on the fire. People hear him and they get wound up.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox.
I was interested in what JD Vance was going to say, but I think you guys got the point. You got the point. I don't even see how anybody could take Walz seriously at this point. Yeah, God bless President Trump. It's craven. God bless our president. I think you said say something like what? I think it's just important that we stick together. And I wanted you guys to really see what this was doing to our country. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know why the women, I'm not gonna say black women that I was speaking, but there's so many things that I want to say that I really can't say because of YouTube and the censoring and all of that. So I have to hold my thoughts, but it's not our fight. It's not our fight. Why would you fight for something against our interests? Illegal immigration does not help our people. It's just the American people, but I just think it's interesting that they're fighting so hard for ICE to stand down. I don't want ICE to stand down. I want ICE to keep doing their job and getting illegal immigrants out of here so we can put America interests first. That's what I want to see happening. It could be safe, but the ones that looked threatened were the ICE agents. Okay, because that was pretty scary. They're doing their job, but certain Americans, because of the governors and the things that the mayors are saying, feel bold enough to just approach these ICE agents as if they can't protect themselves or defend themselves. So much so that they can be in a vehicle and drive off and not worry about the safety of that ICE agent. I find it very problematic. What I've seen, I stand by it, did not look like America. It looks like something else. And Donald Trump didn't do that. Donald Trump came into a situation, saw that, and said, wait, this isn't right. This is making our country look weak, and we're going to do something about it. And I appreciate you guys for responding when I ask if you are Trump supporters, if you are conservatives, what side you stand on, because a lot of times people are afraid to speak out. They're afraid because of how the left would demonize Republicans, saying that we're Satan worshipers, we're I can't be racist, according to people, but white people are racist, and that's not right. So you're telling me that the only way to be accepted in this country is to vote for the Democratic Party? That's a problem in itself. You want to say that Republicans sound like a cult? That sounds like a cult. If I'm not Democrat, I'm going to be canceled. If I say that I want to put America first, that I want to make sure that you enter this country illegally, we want to protect the borders, that means that we're canceled because we can't say it publicly. But if you're from the left, you can say whatever you want. You don't have to censor yourself. So that's a problem. I love Trump from Africa. Are you from Africa? Oh, shoot. I just lost you. Hold on. I think I want to hear what JD Vance was going to say. I think I want to hear from JD Vance. I'm going to keep praying for Donald Trump. And you know what? Every live stream I do, some of you that follow me for a while will see somebody come into the chat and talk about the color of my skin, which shouldn't even matter. Aren't you guys tired of race, right? Didn't they vote to get rid of DEI? I really hate when people ask me that question because I'm just an American. You guys have stood by me, and that really means a lot because I get a lot of hate in my emails, on my videos, and that's okay. I'm going to share another clip with you. It's real short, but I want to hear from JD Vance. I turned it off. I promise, it's short. Let me see if I can get to it. Let's see. I could tell I'm tired.
To read a quote from Tim Walz. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to read a quote from Tim Walz earlier today. He said, when things looked bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held the line for the nation on July 3rd, 1863, and I think we may be in that moment now. Can you comment on his rhetoric and Mayor Jacob Frey and whether they want to see unrest in Minneapolis?
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new assistant attorney general position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Thank you, Nate, for the points. I appreciate you so much. Let me read your comments now. You guys have heard enough from me. Let me see what you guys have to say before I get out of here. Thank y'all for hanging out. We did a lot. I felt like we got through a lot. Okay. You can't hear me? No sound? No? Hey, Malik. Good morning. Let me know if y'all can hear me. I said I was going to read your comments from the bottom up. I can't get to all of them. I can't get to all of them. Oh, thank you for the super stickers. I appreciate you guys. Okay, let me read what you guys are saying. You're fine. Okay. Better? All right, you guys. Try to keep it relevant because I can't get to you guys' comments. Y'all have any thoughts for me? Just keep praying. You sound loud and proud. Catwalk, I am proud. Good night, S. Jed. So thank you guys for double tapping the screen. Because a lot of these kind of videos, you guys, you do not see what I go through on the back end, how many times my videos get flagged, and I don't understand it. What happened to my freedom of speech, right? You can hear me. Thank you. You're absolutely, oh, God. Donald Trump is a, oh, okay. I want to read comments about what you guys think about the video. Another trans cult member broke out JD's window with a hammer and was arrested. Really? Huh. You guys in the chat that's not Republican, do you feel that ICE is being mistreated? I'm not really understanding the pushback. I mean, they're here to do a job and it's hard for them to do their job. And when there's one thing to protest, but that clip I showed you was not a peaceful protest. So that's not held up by the Constitution, and people will get hurt. And that's an example of that lady losing her life. I honestly feel bad that the lady lost her life. But listening to, oh, thank you, Nate. Listening to, I appreciate you. Listening to what the left is saying about the right and ICE, and when you have the governor saying, or the mayor saying, get the F out of my country, it makes people feel that it's okay to attack them. They're there to do a job, and crime rate has gone down lower. I can't block you. I can't block you. She deserves a voice. Help this lady. Nate, thank you. Thank you so much. I've been live for 2.5 hours. So as you can see, I'm kind of down. I am going to pray for Minnesota. I'm going to pray that this country is stronger. There's a lot of pushback from what Donald Trump is doing, and people are afraid, but change makes people afraid. People, even if the system doesn't work, even if people are uncomfortable, they will go with what's familiar instead of, wait a minute, this makes sense. This makes sense. But automatically, Donald Trump does it or says it, and people want to push back. But if a Democratic president were to do the same things, they'll be all for it. Because Obama deported more illegal immigrants than anyone else. Donald Trump is coming up to clean up the job. He's doing it the right way and targeting gang members, targeting people that harm kids and violent offenders and getting them out of here. And you cannot say that they're not criminals, because coming into this country illegally is a crime, which makes them criminals. And we just can't have it here. And it's time to clean it up. That's all it is. Change is always going to be scary, especially for people that are comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be safe, and I want to make sure that my family is safe, and then I'll be comfortable. But right now, I can't be. I just can't. I don't feel safe knowing that me speaking out and doing a live stream like this, I get so much criticism. I just feel that it's just time that more conservative people will speak out. More people would say, hey, I don't quite agree with that, and I do stand with President Trump. I know that this is going to sound weird, but I did a stream about Nicki Minaj, because Nicki Minaj, despite whatever she said in her past, I don't care. I don't care. She's a musician. But she said publicly that she stood with Donald Trump and JD Vance, Erica Kirk, whether you guys like Erica Kirk a lot or not, Charlie Kirk, her husband was unalived for speaking his mind, for sharing traditional and conservative values, and he took his life. And that shouldn't happen, because he has the right to speak. He has the right to speak, debate, and do what he was doing, and he should not have lost his life. And now we're going to watch the trial of Tyler Robinson. I'm almost done, because, I've been like this whole time. And I wasn't even looking at my chat right now. I said I was going to look at you guys' comments. Trump supporters are still bathed. Oh, what's wrong with you? How the rich get richer? Nikki is delusional, and I think her being a talking point speaks to where we are. I only mentioned Nikki because I thought it was really beautiful that she sat down with Erica Kirk at Turning Point USA. One thing that Nicki Minaj said that really stood out to me is that people can change their mind. So despite what she's done before, she's standing by our country, and Donald Trump is our president. He is the commander-in-chief. He's in charge of our military. He's in charge of our country, and we should stand behind him. When Biden was Obama was in office, I stood behind him. You won't find any videos of me criticizing President Obama. And Republicans will fall in place under the president. We may not like it, but you're not going to see us out there protesting and acting a fool. Yep, Nikki is cool. At least she is speaking up. Exactly. She has a large platform. She's speaking up. She can reach a lot of young people. What Charlie Kirk was doing, people may not like. Good night, Jerome. People may not like everything that she was saying. I just lost my train of thought with Jerome. People may not agree with everything that Charlie Kirk said. I didn't agree with everything that he said, but I agreed with a lot of the things that he said. And I love the fact that he was reaching out to young voters. Nikki also said that boys should be boys and girls should be girls, which is fine. Exactly. Standing with Trump is a very controversial stance. He is divisive. I think it's important for me as a Black woman to openly speak about my support for Donald Trump. I get tired of the race card. I get tired of the Black should be Democrat speech when it was the Republican Party that fought for our civil rights and fought for our freedom. It was the Republican Party. People tend to forget that. And we forget about the North and the South and all of that. I'm way too tired to get into that history tonight. I have to do that on another stream. But I do feel that it's important to just speak about basic things. And some things went against our best interest. Okay. Donald Trump, the things that he's done and the things that he has put in place, wanting every American to work, making more jobs is what we should do. You work, you take care of your families, you build strong communities, and you have a happy life. You have a stable life. It's about stability. And you do have to think about those things, and it's important to teach those things. I have kids. I teach my kids. We talk about politics all the time. I tell them that you work, right? You have to be responsible and you make good decisions. And you do not expect people to take care of you because you made bad decisions. You make sure if you have kids, you can afford those kids. It's your responsibility to pull yourself up because you live in a country that has endless opportunities and everybody has stumbling blocks. And I'm not trying to preach to you guys. I'm not preaching to you guys, but I am telling you that it starts with you and you're responsible. You're responsible to pull yourself up, and you can. You just have to want to do it. Trump has made. Oh, I'm reading. I gotta watch what I read. Look up the no other reasonable means clause. I'm way too tired tonight. Can you just look it up for me and put it in the chat? Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God, powers that be ordained of God. Romans 13. That's right. Dems like socialism. I want this comment. This one. Dems like socialism because they are simply losers. Ooh. Well, I don't really like the word losers because that's something that they would call, like, because I can articulate that better. Socialism doesn't work. Imagine if nobody worked. Who's going to put into these programs and these handouts? Socialism doesn't work. It has not worked for any country. That it doesn't work. There's some aspects of it that I can see appealing, but the money has to come from somewhere. You need people to work, and if there's no incentive to work, people won't do it. What happens to Social Security? What happens to Medicare? What happens to things like that? SNAP, all those kind of things. WIC, SNAP is the food stamp thing. Anyways, what happens? How do we get money for all those things? So people have to work, and there has to be that incentive. I'm hoping that America stays a capitalist country. You got to pay to play. That's right, Nate. Socialism doesn't mean people don't work, morons. Socialism will not work for the United States. The agent broke his own rules. I must have missed something what Christina was saying. Christina, aren't you going live? I was going to come over there. My new favorite person, you go, girl. I wish my girlfriend was your best friend. Oh, Nate. I'm sure she's awesome. If you have a gun and you think that someone's putting sugar. And it's okay if you guys disagree with me. But I'm not sure what is there to disagree on. I'm not sure. Lionel, Venezuela is a prime example of socialism and communism. The Venezuelans are happy right now. They're free. They're able to make choices and do things that they were not able to do before. So, of course, that president is entitled to a fair trial. But if he's convicted, he's facing life in prison. And that will send a strong signal to other countries that want to smuggle drugs into our country, that want to be a threat to the American people just to profit their own country. And that's just not right. Paint the earth, USA. There are no actual communism or socialist societies. Just, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that one. Hugo Chavez was actually more dangerous than Maduro. Our relationship with Venezuela has gone down since Hugo Chavez in 1999. It hasn't gotten better. Despite Donald Trump's attempt to negotiate with Maduro, nothing was changing, and they were allowing our country to be damaged because they didn't want to do anything about the drug trafficking in the United States. I know a lot of people are talking about the oil in Venezuela. Yes, Venezuela has oil. Yes, the United States has oil too. We don't have the reservoirs. We have oil, but Donald Trump using Venezuela's oil benefits the United States. So they committed crimes against this country, and the United States is going to do what the United States is going to do to protect this country. But when the cost of gas and other things go down, I don't think anybody's going to be complaining about what's happening in Venezuela. Hey, Theronis, wow, Major, what are you talking? Okay. I've been an MU fan since day one, no minute one by minute. She's amazing. Dr. Manhattan, I appreciate you so much. Y'all been working out with me. Ask the Chinese how socialism worked. The leaders escaped to Taiwan, and that's when they were literally eating cats and dogs. Okay. Gas already down. We don't need oil. We need the oil, and we want the oil. United States has oil. We have our own resources, but yes, we want the oil. Venezuela was the richest nation per person in our hemisphere. Socialist housing. Trump is the biblical antichrist. Mercy, that's harsh. States, if deadly force. Thank you for that, Tyler. If deadly force can be avoided by disengagement, then by the policy's own language, it shouldn't be used. If the DOJ explicitly says the shooting wasn't justified, why ICE in supporting this? Did you not see the same video that we saw, Tyler? That lady almost ran him down. I had to watch it several times and from different angles, and I finally saw a clip of it slow down. The ICE agent was standing on the side. She pulls off. She could have ran him over. It was pretty scary to look at. I agree with JD Vance that a lot of things have gotten to her, listening to the news, listening to propaganda and all these things, and she just had this idea that the ICE agents were evil because they were sending people back and they were deporting people. And stop listening to all these lies about, oh, all these Americans are being deported. Americans aren't being deported. Okay? They're not being deported. And if something happens where, okay, there was a mistake that was made because of whatever family or whatever, it was corrected. It was corrected. But some people try to look a certain way so that ICE can accidentally deport them because there's just a lot more that goes to it, you guys, than that. I'm not going to Trump all day, every day. He's actually protecting our constitutional rights and freedoms, trying to keep America free. When I went to the No Kings protest against Trump, and I felt, I met nice people and I made YouTube friends, right, with other bloggers, and we're cool. We're connected on TikTok, but the hatred they had towards the Republicans. When I went to the Trump rally in Coachella, it was love and solidarity. It was really a beautiful event. I mean, you guys could sense the patriot. I don't want to mess up the word because my brain is tired. It just felt really good to be there, and Donald Trump did an amazing job. Nobody really talks about the attempt taken on his life in Coachella. They tried to say, oh, we don't know, that guy was just there. No, he had firearms in his backpack. Okay? Donald Trump's life has been in danger since he took office. People just hate him. And they hate him because of what he's trying to do for America to make it stronger and to make it better. And when we come out and support Donald Trump, they want to call us racist. I can't. But they want to just make it seem as if it's okay to harm people that think like Donald Trump. It's okay. Look at how just look at with Charlie Kirk, how they publicly mocked what happened to him. And his wife and his kids had to watch that. And look at how they treat Erica. Thank you, Nate. All right, you guys. They loved him before they did. The fact that people justify murder is corny. It is. That same guy was dragged 300 feet by anti-ICE people. Oh, that's right, game passenger before this. You gotta be pretty stupid to interfere with an active law enforcement operation. Can you have like guests on here to comment vocally? I would love to able to support you with more support. I can, Nate. Anytime you want to come out, you just ask for a link. I would love that. Yeah, I would drop us. I'm getting ready to get out of here tonight, but I would drop a link for you. You just gotta let me know. I usually don't drop a link unless somebody asks. And I don't know if you guys know how. You guys go to my community post. I try to have a space, so even though this stream goes fast and I missed your comments, even if you agree with me or not, go to my community wall on my page, leave a comment, and I respond to you. I try to respond to all of my comments, and that way I can hear you out, and I keep it in mind for when I'm live, so that way I can address your questions, your comments, even if you don't agree with me. Like, I've had discussions with Carcino, Claude, Dr. Manhattan. We have discussions over here, and I love to hear what you guys think. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I play the news so you can hear it yourself. You can hear it out of the horse's mouth, and then you can decide, because there's a lot of people that want you just to believe them, but they're misleading you with fake news. But yes, I do open up the platform so you guys can speak. And the only reason I don't speak during these clips is because for some reason it messes with my microphone, and then you get this weird echo, and I don't want my audio to not be heard, so I go on mute and I just speak after. It's not that I can't give commentary, but I'd rather you hear from JD Vance, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that traitor, and other people. All right, you guys. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. I have to lay it down. But I appreciate you guys for hanging out. I thank you for the gifts. Nate, I see you. Uncle Claude and Dr. Manhattan. Y'all, I made a mistake with I'll talk to you guys about it on another stream. I was so tired. Someone asked me for a wrench and I threw my wrench. Y'all know I don't wrench my chat. Because I like you guys to be able to speak freely, and sometimes my moderators don't know that. But I'll take care of that we'll take care of that in the horizontal stream. I'll take care of it. Fine, God. All right. What did you call Marjorie Taylor Greene? Y'all know Marjorie Taylor is so wrong. I'm so tired of you guys putting the Epstein files in my chat, and not because I want to hide the Epstein files, but because nobody wants to talk about Clinton and the photograph that came up of him. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody talks about the Biden administration not putting out the Epstein files. You guys want to use that to distract from midterms. You want to use that to distract from what President Trump is doing right now. All you can do is put Epstein in my chat, regardless of what the subject is. So Marjorie coming out saying that she pulled her support because of Epstein and gave us this big sob story about her wealthy kids not being able to afford food was bull. She was thinking about pulling her support from Donald Trump because Donald Trump was starting to see weaknesses in Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been cracking, and Marjorie Taylor knew that Donald Trump was going to pull his support, and she probably wasn't going to win another term anyway. And maybe she wanted to go for Senate like Jasmine Crockett, which I think is I won't talk about Jasmine tonight. I want to keep some friends. But Marjorie Taylor was very disappointing, even with some of the stuff that she was saying, and then she was still hiding it behind, oh, she likes Donald Trump. No, no. When everyone's coming at him about these trials, she could have held her opinion. I mean, about these files, she could have held her opinion, because Marjorie didn't just talk about the Epstein files. I don't know if I made a video about this, but Marjorie also talked about the cost of groceries. Oh, Donald Trump said he was going to lower the cost of groceries. He hasn't even been in office even close to a year at that time. Like, it was just weird that she went on this rampage, and she kept going, and she just kept saying, but I support the president. Your words are cheap. She did not support Donald Trump, and Donald Trump seen it. He tried talking to Marjorie, and Marjorie just kept going a different way, and now she's playing victim. And do not like the fact that she's playing victim. And she used her kids to do it, because we all know that Marjorie Taylor's kids can eat. Okay. She's not going to be able to play this poor card. Like, she can't afford to live in the United States. We're just not going. Private prisons are concentration camps. Lots of world leaders and anti-bullies in those files. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree. But I'd rather focus on the midterm elections and what's going on there. It's going to be so important to vote. I don't know why people are saying, including Donald Trump, he said it, but if he doesn't win midterms, he can be impeached. Just because he's impeached doesn't mean they're going to remove him from office. That's something completely different. I hope that we win, but with everything that's being done right now and all the lies that's being told, I don't know. I'm just going to keep praying for our country and praying that people will see the truth and know that illegal immigration is not in our best interest. It's not safe, and it's not safe, especially the gang members and the other stuff that comes in. You come here the right way and you are welcome, but I can't go to your country and just show up. If groceries aren't going down, pick a better store. Yeah. Supporting communism. Oh, I thought you said you were supporting communism in New York. Oh my goodness. Stardust says we pay more in taxes for all the programs Democrats want, so they can continue the money laundering schemes. And now Democrats are supporting communism in New York. Isn't it crazy, Stardust? Yeah. Be careful. They'll look at you and scoop you. I'm dark and I worry. Kick in the can. Nobody's going to look at me and scoop me up. Why would they do that? Don't be worried. If you're from here, like, you're fine. You're fine. We're not going to get scooped up. I don't like that fear mongering. Please, just, God didn't give us a spirit of fear. So just be smart. Don't park your car where ICE is trying to conduct business and not move that car. And then when you decide to move, you move it when you are putting an ICE agent's life in danger. Just make good decisions. Read the news about what's happening. I agree with that. You look Dominican. No, I'm not Dominican. Yeah. We have Puerto Rican in our family. You guys, I never do these streams to cause division. Please don't think I'm picking on either side. There's problems all around. But what I'm telling you is I look at the bigger picture. I can work within a Republican Party. There might be some things I'm like, I don't know. But overall, it's the less government involvement in our life. It's the being responsible for yourself, not expecting someone to give you a handout to make it in this world, because that's going to keep you so limited. I live in California. It's an expensive state, and I managed to live here because I made good decisions. I support my country, and yes, I have to work like everybody else, but I make no excuses. I love this country. When I went to the military, when I first went to the military, they asked everybody why did they join the military, right? And there was people talking about school, GI Bill, didn't know what to do. I said I wanted to serve my country. I got my ESWAS pin, which is the highest enlisted pin, and I loved it. I would have continued, but I wanted to go to college. So I feel like we live in the greatest country in the world. And I think that everybody should feel that way about where they live and take pride in where they live. And I feel that with Donald Trump, he's bringing a lot of that back to us where we can feel like we're American. And I hate to bring up the race card. Y'all know I hate talking about race, but where white people don't have to feel like guilt towards a lot of things. And I'm not getting into race, I'm not saying anything, but we could just look at each other like we're Americans and that, okay, I'm a good person. If you're white, you're white. If you're black, you're black, but we're all still American, right? It doesn't really matter what shade you are. And that's how it should be. We should be one country, supporting each other, letting go of a lot of things and just kind of getting to know each other and just really being grateful for where we live. And I can't get enough of that. I can't. And there's so much more I want to say, but I won't because I'm tired and I don't want to drop the ball. But when I tell you guys that I have these conversations to bring unity and to have discussions and maybe we can understand each other a lot more, that's why I do it. That's why I do it. The Supreme Court, what is this? What is this? Shorty, Supreme Court words, you can be beaten at a party if you look Latina, but you're not talking about race. The Supreme Court ruled, Shorty, where did the Supreme Court rule that? Shorty, where did you come up with that? Did anybody else hear about the Supreme Court ruling? I hate to call y'all out. I hate to call you guys out. Lionel, I am so grateful. Can you tell I have a big smile on my face? It's not parties, it's good and evil, your choice. It's not about parties. Seems y'all ignore what improper use of force is. They've stopped Trump from deporting anyone, and he's the president. They've stopped him a lot. I didn't hear about that. I have to call bull on that Supreme Court ruling. The Supreme Court did not say you're taking that out of context. Lionel, you're taking it out of context. They can get you based on your skin color. Greg, how are you? How are you? I just got tired of where things were going. I just did, guys. And when I went to vote in California, and that lady said I didn't need an ID, I worried because how did she know I was who I said I was? Now, y'all know I want to vote Republican, but how did she know? And there's only one reason why they didn't make it so you could vote without an ID. I don't need to say it, you guys know, but that's really scary. Win the election fair and square. All right. We still friends, you guys? What's going on? You're not hitting gang relax. I'm not sure what y'all say. Hey, Nate. Don't let the haters rile you. MU is adorable, amazing, smart, and beautiful, and all that. What was Nate talking? I like Nate. Nate, where are you? Read the news. I read the news every day. Those of you that know me, like some people, Claude, do I read the news? Do I watch the news all day? I don't watch regular programs on TV. I love what's happening. I pay attention to what's happening because there's a lot of things to go through. There's a lot of things that I don't talk to you guys about because I just want you guys to hear it for yourself. But the big, beautiful bill and all these things with Trump, I read them. I study them. We talk about it. I just don't give a lot of commentary when I'm playing a video because I don't want you guys to believe me. I want you guys to hear it for yourself. I try to find clips that's going to wrap it up, break it down for you, and kind of, when you guys leave me comments, I look for videos that will answer those questions for you so that way you can hear it for yourself. Right, Dr. Mahead. Oh, Nate's awesome. Look at him. Mac, it's okay to be shy and accept that you are less. Oh, thank you, Nate. Big hugs. But again, you guys, use my community wall. I missed a lot of your comments. Did you know Gavin Newsom is Pelosi's nephew? Whoa, I didn't know that. Miss, really? Hold on. Is Gavin Newsom's... Wait. No, Gavin Newsom is Pelosi's nephew? No. Is Gavin Newsom Pelosi? I gotta look this up. I can't leave on that news. Hold on. Is Gavin Newsom Pelosi's nephew? No. I was like, how did I miss that? See, that's why I can't listen to you guys. I can't. Let's get rid of DEI and detain people based on their skin color and accent without a warrant. Tyler, I think you're running ideas together. DEI deals with hiring practices, and then you're talking about detaining people based on their skin color and accent without a warrant. Maybe those things happen in a day, but I'm not about to get into the police and all of that. I know that there's problems, but I understand what people are saying about DEI, and I want to know that I am the best person for the job, and I do not need points or anything else to help me get there. It's not just Blacks or Afro-Latinas, or even Latinos, I don't even have to say Afro, that use DEI. Is also for certain communities and other things like that. And nobody, I just don't like, if you get rid of DEI, then you don't have to worry about people thinking that you got the job based off of the color of your skin. I do feel that you have to be the best person for the position, and anybody can overcome any obstacle. That's all it is. If you want to make it, you can make it. I'm not preaching for or against DEI. I'm just not getting into it. DEI, don't eat it. But I understand the argument on both sides. Newsom is related to Pelosi through marriage. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you. It was a nice idea, but unfortunately it's been corrupted. It was a nice idea, damage, because we know that Blacks couldn't get a job and those kind of things. I'm just hoping, I mean, we're in 2026 now. It was flawed. It just caused a lot of hate and division. I felt the same with affirmative action, though. It didn't really go towards how you know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of Blacks being used as this token. Like, we got to do it for the Black people, because we are not really the ones that use these programs. Affirmative action, even if you look at food stamps, we're not the major recipients of it. So a lot of times they say, oh, it's going to help, especially the Democratic Party, to win the vote from Black people. So we vote notoriously Democrat. Doesn't matter if they follow through on these programs. It doesn't matter if they follow through on these promises. They already got the vote. They don't have to follow through. They just have to make the promise. And by keeping Blacks on welfare and other things, makes them wealthier. These the money that comes in from these government programs and the fundings and things like that. I haven't seen one Black person get wealthy from these programs or become in a better situation. And I just wish that more would wake up and know that it's the Republican Party that has fought to bring wealth, including generational wealth. And we see that with Trump bills. We've seen that time and time again, but because people are afraid of and want to vote like their ancestors and their moms, then they vote Democrat, and the Democratic Party doesn't have to do anything to win the Black vote. Good morning. So, okay, you guys got to be tired of hearing me speak by now. Good morning, Albert. So I'm going to lay it down. Other people were gaining, Uncle Claude, you know what I'm talking about. Other people are gaining more from affirmative action than Black people. Exactly. All right, you guys, I'm going to lay down. You can even, I want to keep some friends. Thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys. Nate, I see you. Both parties are a joke. Mac, I understand. There's problems on both sides. That's absurd. There are thousands of great Americans that are famous whose parents had things like SNAP and how I never see, Shorty, I never said there wasn't. I was speaking particularly about time and time again, Democrats will say they're going to give us all these things, and you don't see it happening. You just see the promises. I never once said that famous people have not made it if their parents were not on SNAP and housing, because that's so not true. I can name a lot of people who are wealthy now whose parents were not wealthy, but you actually go to prove my point. I just said that anybody can make it into this country, that we all have obstacles. You proved my point by saying that there are Americans whose parents are on SNAP and housing, and then they still became famous. So that goes to exactly what I was talking about, which means we're on the same page. You just felt like arguing that point, and I'm saying the exact same thing that you are. So thank you for that. You said I never seen it work. I didn't say that I've never seen it work in that sense. Look for what I'm saying in the chat. Okay, Chris, thank you so much for the super sticker. All right, Chris, let me find you. I know it's a lot of... Where is it? Thank you, Nate. Where's Chris? Maz, do you see it where you can send it to me on my phone? Okay, wait, let me use my phone. All right. Dr. Mahana, you getting beat up in the chat too? Okay, you guys, let me see if I can find it. All right. Oh, wait, let me turn this down. You guys, let's get along before I go. Okay, Chris. Chris, I don't see it. I don't think I can scroll that far up, my friend. Ooh, my mods are blocking. What y'all doing to my mods? What are you guys doing? Okay, I don't know if you could put it back in the chat. I'll wait for it before I go to bed. Free healthcare is nice because it's free, but it's crap because immigrants get priority over me in my own country, Tyler. Chris. Look at that preacher wife. People was talking about they raised $4 million. Where is that money going to go? Exactly, Chris. Exactly. Damage. We got enough broke MFers in the U.S. Don't need broke folks from other countries. Y'all are... I can tell I'm tired because I'm like laughing a lot, but I needed that laugh because my earlier stream today was rough. Guys, sorry. I'm sorry about that earlier stream, but okay. Mac, I'm not sure who you're talking to. I have free healthcare. It's fantastic. That's good. I'm glad. I don't know what country you're from, but people have free healthcare. I don't have free healthcare. I have to pay $1,000 a month for healthcare, but I do have good health insurance. But you know, and I do it because I need healthcare. All right, you guys. So there's no such thing. There's no such thing as $1,000 a month. Oh, Nate, you're talking to them. Nate, we're friends. We got you, misunderstood. Damage, I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you guys' support. When I tell you that these streams are extremely difficult, even if I get choked up sometimes, but I still try to get my words out. I get a lot of hate. Get a lot of hate messages, and I still come out here and speak the truth. So I appreciate you guys double tapping the screen, showing the support, hyping my videos, because it's so hard to do. It's hard with YouTube, and it's hard with a lot of the comments and the ignorant responses I get all day. But I was in the military. Don't like this sweet face for you. I have thick skin, and I hate ignorance. It's one thing to not know, just say you don't know, and it's another to refuse to look at the truth because you want to be stubborn and you want to be right. There's no growth in that. All right, you guys, I don't hate, I just strongly disagree. That's fine. That's fine. Well, Damage, I used to go to other platforms and speak because I didn't use my platform. Those that have followed me for a while, I didn't use my platform for politics, but I've always been involved in politics. So I would go to other platforms. I would get kicked off. They would call me stupid. They didn't even have to make sense. Everybody agreed with them because they were Democrats, and I would get up there thinking they'd want to have a well-rounded conversation and hear from the other side. I'm a conservative Republican, right? Nothing liberal about me. And I could hardly they were allowed to curse at me and say the most degrading things. So I can come here and speak. No one can silence me except, that's why I try to be careful about some of the stuff that I say for algorithm purposes. But I can come here, conservatives can come here, MAGA can come here. I don't identify as MAGA, but I don't mind them. I just say I don't identify with MAGA because I love the fact that even before Donald Trump got into office, I was already a Republican, already speaking the truth. And so that's why I just identify as conservative. It doesn't matter though. And I just thought we could all speak here. I'm not going to be rude to you or kick you off my platform, right? I'll let you speak. But I definitely created a space for Republicans to speak and for us to feel safe. And my moderators, they do their best to keep the comments respectful. We let people speak, even if you guys are calling me idiot and stuff like that. I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to still speak my mind, but I just really wanted a place where I can show you guys what the Republican Party is all about and what we stand for. Okay. All right, you guys. Republicans are lying right now. Tommy. That's okay. Right, Jai. I know it's always about the insults for them. They are medicated for right. They're all medicated for someone crazy. Thank you, Carrie. You guys, we had a good day. I'm gonna pray for you guys, and I'll see you the next time. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna talk about because I'm looking at some things. I'm about to leave, but it's good to see you. All right, you guys, let me study. I need to look at what's going on with the border and look at what's happening with Tim Walz because I don't like what's happening in Minnesota and all this other stuff with I don't want to forget that Tim Walz has been exposed. He's not just stepping down gracefully. He has been exposed, and he is responsible for the fraud that's been happening there. So him in this humbleness and trying to demonize the Republican Party is not going to work. We know the truth, and he's been hiding a lot of stuff over there, and a lot of things fell under his watch. That's what it is. All right, you guys. Damage. Good night. I guarantee you're only tough on YouTube. I'm a woman. Where else do you want me to be tough? I'm a woman. I'm talking about anything dealing with imperfect people has a chance to be flawed and corrupted. We do have the gift of free will. Keep in mind of choices and consequences. On that note, good night, my friends.